All righty. Roger's going to be about 10 minutes late, so I'm going to go ahead and call this to order, and we'll take roll call. Give me just a second. All righty. We got the sound. Everything's ready? All righty. I'm going to call to order the Board of 4th, 2022 at 5:05 p.m. We'll have a roll call. Floyd. Here. Hello. And Mr. Kiefer.
Here.
So we have Mr. here at this time, but agents to again, we are care that somehow devastation of the storm things, but we also your grace and your mercy to the north and south, and all the volunteers and those who have lost loved ones and friends and family and property, that you strengthen, encourage them, and rebuild these communities, Father, their spirits, we pray, and their property over them. Tonight, look at the business of wisdom, and that we would hear from our constituents and sound decisions that are pleasing to you and work well for our constituents at the same time. And we ask these things in the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have corrections or additions, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and board members. To approve ratification of resolution number 0 requesting to remove. This is a change marsh construction under planning board. Items number 14 and 15 is an application Morris for Old River Road. And these are your
Move those.
Yes.
So we have our addition of item number 9 and the consent agenda item. And a new business. 15 under planning board. Do you have a motion to accept this agenda with changes?
Make a motion to approve with the second.
Loper, second by Mr. To approve this agenda with the noted changes from our clerk. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And hearing none, we have our agenda. You have your minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes to approve the agenda, minutes of September 20th, 2022?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Loach, second Floyd, to approve the minutes as all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, passes unanimously. Welcome to those who have attending the meeting tonight. Good to have you. Keep your comments to be greatly appreciated. Keep them 2 to 3 minutes. That'll just want to speak to all the correspondence and in the clerk's office on the website, and I hope you've had a chance to review that so that you can participate appropriately at the appropriate time. And with that, we'll move on consent, which is consideration to approve ratification of resolution 22-046, declaration of local emergency related to Hurricane Ian, and you have that before you. Motion to approve that.
And as presented.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second Mr. Loper. to approve this consent agenda item. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no.
You're right.
Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Was it Mr. Loper that seconded or Mr. Deloach?
I did.
Yeah, Mr. Deloach, I'm sorry.
Jamie did.
Yeah, that Mr. Deloach did the second. Thank you. All right, new business. Item number 1, consideration to approve a service agreement with Motorola Solutions for annual maintenance for the 700/800 megahertz radio system and 911 consoles.
Chris Reed, Effingham, our FT director. This is our annual renewal, annual maintenance agreement with Motorola for our public safety radio systems, our sites, and all the equipment that goes with them. Total cost is $1,000, which will be partially funded from 911 recovery fees with the coming general fund.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions or discussions on item 1? Do we have a motion to approve alternative 1?
Make a motion to approve all number 1. Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second Mr. Kiefer to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 2, consideration to approve resolution 22-044 to amend the fiscal year 2022 budget.
Good afternoon, Mark Barnes, Finance Director. This amendment has a few minor items related to the ARPA funds for fiscal year '22. This is currently still in format. You know, it was mentioned essentially changing the level of control to the department level to do that, but staff recommends approval of this amendment.
Okay, that'd be good for, that'll be better for our audit purposes, yeah.
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, any discussion or questions on the,
I'll make a motion for all 1.
motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Loper for alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Consideration, item number 3, consider to approve resolution 22-045 to extend a moratorium. I'm gonna ask if we would hold off of that one because the length of that moratorium, even if we need to do it, will be determined, I think, by item number 4. So can we go to item 4 first and do the first reading and then come back and look at the moratorium? I think that'd be a wiser way. Is that okay with the board?
Dean.
Okay. If longer moratorium, I'm getting, it'll determine whether we even need it or how long we need it based on what we do with item number 4. So let's go to item number 4, consideration to approve the first reading of an ordinance to amend Article 2, definition, Article 5, uses permitted to districts, Section 5.6, R3, and Section 5.8, R6, single-family residential, the Code of Ordinances. So we're basically looking at R3 and R6 Code of Ordinances.
Yes, we've worked with a consultant and had a number of meetings to discuss the revisions that should be made. And what you have before you is a combination of both the consultant's input and some staff input. And they're different colors to note that. This consultant is blue, staff is red. So what we've done is initially add a definition for townhouses and planned single-family home community, which is another way of describing the rent-to-build communities that we've been talking about. Or I'm sorry, built-to-rent communities. So separate call out, and that because we've seen, as you know, we've seen through 3, but not traditional apartment buildings, but townhouses. So we wanted to give better guidance to know how to handle townhouses versus traditional apartment buildings.
What's the difference? When I look at the definitions, I guess we'll look at each of these as we go through it. What's the difference in a townhouse? As I read the definition, I don't see a lot of, if any, difference.
Well, one real difference is that they can be sold, so they're on the lot, and townhouses can be, horizontal next to each other. An apartment building, for example, could be multi-story building with many units, so, and they can certainly be sold through a condo arrangement, but we haven't seen that. The townhouses that we've been seeing, or that we anticipate seeing, is just a collection of very, attached homes on individual lots. They may or may not be sold.
I
on
guess that's what I'm saying.
individual
I
lots.
didn't see the definition defining all you're saying. It's where each unit is an individual lot, on an individual lot, share a common wall and are 2 or 3 stories height. That sounds like apartments. Common walls and they're 2 or 3 stories in height.
I think the issue is the land underneath is fee simple. And so, whereas, an apartment or condominium, all underneath is, either, under one entity ownership or, a condominium under community ownership. So, I mean, for example, you may have a, other owners in that, in the building, but you actually own the land, underneath your feet. It's effectively a lot.
Okay, but that wasn't the one we were trying to read, was it? Trying to-
The definition of that.
So, in a second.
General provision.
Multifamily, a building designed
25.
for or occupied by 3 or more families. This is an item under multifamily. Is that what we're doing? I don't know. It just, to me, it's not real clear. I see the difference in the condominium. We'll keep going again and see if I have any.
These can always be questions. Happy to put them in there. This,
Well, here's what, sorry, garden apartment. What's the? But a garden apartment, 3 or more attached dwelling units in a 2 or 3 story building. What's the difference in a garden apartment? House. Definition sounds very similar.
Where are you seeing that? What?
that's on the first, it's a little
Okay,
further up.
okay.
Yeah, the garden departments, that's not something we've really had. It's currently in the order,
Oh, I
it's a
see.
definition, and it's never made a, doesn't, it's maybe in cities, you'll see there's a 3 flat. That's
I
what
know,
I've
but
always assumed it was.
If you got something that's multifamily like called garden apartments, is that not a way to get around the town that we're trying to do with the quality? They said, we'll just do garden apartments, because it's approved for that.
We can clarify that too. Apartment is stacked, whereas
Well,
the townhouse is on its own individual lot, even though they're attached to each other.
so when it's 2 or 3 story highs, it's talking about one unit being 2 or 3 stories
Yeah.
high.
Yes,
Okay.
we can clarify that if
I
that's,
think you need to clarify that, because a
Yeah.
townhouse,
Yeah.
I guess, is that way. I mean, I don't know if you
and
could have,
each unit is 2 to 3 stories high. Yeah, we
maybe
can-
town,
It does say 2 or 3 story building, but it doesn't show individual separation, vertical separation.
Right, and then actually going forward would include illustration exhibits showing, so we can have one labeled townhouse that clearly shows that it's side by side.
be confusing it, but to me, it wasn't as clear as it could be how townhouses are different from some other things we're doing. Okay. Continue.
And I think it's worth saying, do second reading tonight. It has to be on a separate, it has to be in 2 weeks. So if there is feedback or changes that you all need, we can have them prepared prior to second reading.
Very good. Okay.
Moving on, then, under R3, we added a section that just better described what townhouses expect to get in a townhouse development. So it's lot coverage, requiring differences in the exterior of each unit so that they're called out as separate dwelling units, even though they're attached, that they have, front yard or applicable and a rear yard. And we did add this, for developments with 60 units, at least 1 point of access. For developments of 61 or more dwelling units, at least 2 points of access to the roadway network shall be provided. Now, that's new. We don't currently have a requirement like that, so that's appropriate. The issue, drive very close together, and it's just a lot where we had at least people had the option of taking different exits from the development, given how densely packed they are, you know, potentially an improvement or amenity, but that's something, you know,
You
yeah.
know,
I got a
Mi-
couple.
go ahead.
Say something. I got a couple things that you might understand, Phil, that I don't, because I'm not a builder, but the minimum public street, 35 feet from the edge of the pavement. Could that conflict with easements ways? I mean, I'm not sure what that,
I added that, and I added that because we had a problem in the Buckingham Plantation townhouses. This was a real point of contention. Our ordinances were not at all clear, and now there might be a better way to stuck that in there, because that was, our ordinances allow really close to the road. Foot yard, front yard, and then, what was it, 25-foot setback, and it wasn't.
I got
What-
you. Setback from the right of way, what's it supposed to be from the property line? 25 feet is what you're looking for?
From the property line. Question.
Nobody knows where that's at exactly,
Well, we
because there's a
probably
right of
need
way beyond that.
terminology. I put that in more as a placeholder to make sure that I did get that addressed, because when we were reviewing and you all came up, and we felt like they, based on
I think I'd
consistent
just look at that
ordinances.
feet from the, what if some utilities run in a right of way about 35 foot back? Is a possibility on some larger roads that could happen? I don't know.
Right, so we should change it to right, we should,
Something, I think it could, I just could see a problem down the
we'll
road.
clarify that.
A minimum, depending on, and then we can put in there depending on the depth of the right of way.
Exactly, something to protect, so we don't have people building right up to or over something.
Okay,
this only applies to townhomes, right?
townhomes.
Okay.
And then, what's the difference in this? Minimum yard interior, 15 feet. And then minimum distance between buildings. I would think that'd be the yard interior between the buildings. 20 and one's 15.
So this is R3, so it's actually applying to both apartment buildings and townhomes. And sometimes it won't be applicable for townhomes because each unit is, there's a cluster of several units together. So between buildings, if it's an apartment building, it's between them. If it's the cluster of town, then it's some distance between them.
So what's 15, one says 20. One says minimum yard, side yard interior.
That's if it's along the street, but if it's on a corner, if it's like a corner lot, then they'd have to be further back.
Well, you got minimum side yard street, 35 feet.
Yeah, it's treating it like a front, and that's how we handle single family. So if you have a house that's
All right,
50
I'm
from
not sure
the
you
front,
follow
50
me.
from the side.
I get minimum side setback for the street, 35 feet, that's clear. But now the interior minimum side yard setback, that sounds like it's between buildings.
Between buildings.
Well, one says 15, then it says 20 later on. It says minimum distance between buildings is 20 feet, and the minimum side yard interior is
yes.
15.
Okay.
Is that a
yeah.
conflict?
I see the one in red here.
Then go up,
The red has been added, but I think it conflicts with something's already in it.
All right, we'll fix that.
Okay.
Where,
if you go two up from the one,
side yard set,
Between the building, that's not the street, the street's 35. So if you're trying to get improved quality by getting 20 feet, if I was a developer, I'd argue 15 foot.
Right, we'll fix that.
minimum side yard interior, if it were 10 feet, so you're gonna have feet between setback on both lots.
It's not really a
Am I reading
setback.
that,
No,
or-
it's not a setback.
Okay.
That's the thing. That's the problem we had with
Okay.
R3 all along. It had
Yeah.
so little guidance. And although this is the same as, this is what was always there, but it 50 between buildings, that's pretty small.
Yeah,
But-
yeah.
You're trying to get 20, you need to eliminate that minimum side yard,
Yeah,
or
we'll
make it
fix
20
that.
as
We'll
well.
make sure that it's consistent.
Yeah, make it, yeah, okay.
And then after that, we move on to the density bonus. Are you ready to go there? Okay. Now, if someone's building a family in our, go to the R6 and look at that, because that deals with single, so we didn't clutter up R3 with that discussion. But this deals with townhouse. So again, assuming that based on the trends we're seeing, townhouses are where we're going to, what's going to happen in R3. And we will bonuses. And so in order to consider those, we are proposing to have upgrades, like finishes that are limiting the townhouse rows to not more than 6 dwelling units, because we've seen up to 8. In Creekside, we've got up to 8 in a row. That's what we'll continue to see. You know, and then, you know, making sure the facades are set back of each unit, so that's just more and individualized. And then there's suggestions on roof design and how to, and we'll have exhibits to show this. We do have those. It's just a lot of on making it more aesthetically pleasing, hiding the HVAC, adding front porches where necessary. Oh, I'm sorry, there actually are some multifamily requirements or multifamily density bonuses as well. And that is also upgrading facade materials, utility meters and equipment, and then the building elevations to be varied with just different materials, different setbacks, or different, you know, setbacks, different treatments, and roof types. So that's what the upgrade would be if they want a little more and give us a better product.
That's right. Fair.
Do you want to highlight anything else?
On to R6, so moving on to R6. It's very much similar. So R6, let me see. So we're staying with the 4 acre, which is the last change we'll make to the ordinance, but we're including a density bonus, which is described a little later. In the draft, I made to include the lot and building requirements, because that somehow got left out when we got the draft back. Open space requirements, no change. I have made it a little clearer, because we had, after a few applications, we had some question about how we're calculating use open space, so this just made it clear based on that feedback. And reiterating that and a minimum 5 standard similar in dealing with the exterior, and we added a point system. I've seen that, I saw that in some other jurisdictions where there's a point system, and in order to incentivize something like the side-loaded garage support and also sunrooms, we gave them more points, and everything else is just 1 point, and that was just based on a review of other ordinances and how, you know, they're handling this kind of feature. So it's really, one thing I did add for a density bonus, and this is in the townhouse one as well, schools, public parks or facilities, and or retail commercial development. Forgetting dense development, I mean, we've definitely heard from you that you prefer that density goes in the more urban areas where there are amenities. So I wanted to make sure that was included.
That.
Yeah, rather than in, you know, green fields out further back.
Or
So-
do we want 6 per acre? Is it any circumstance? Is it-
See, that was my question, because you can't physically
homes.
put 6 on an acre. So are starting out at 4.5, are we starting out too high?
Yeah, maybe it's 3 and then 4.5 would be more
Yeah.
for Effingham, I would think.
We were, R6 used to be up to 6 per acre, which no, is never. But what it just allows is a smaller lot size, so it was 0.15. Changed that, went up to 4.5 per acre, which allowed about almost a fifth. And so because of demand, we're suggesting that we could go back to that 6 units per acre, which is basically 0.15 acres, if there were additional features added to the subdivision. So you can have your cake, but has really nice icing.
I understand that, but I'll see 3 and then start at 3 and go up to 4 point bonus density. I think it'd be
Okay.
much more attractive. You're gonna do a family dwelling, that's
I think
on
what
a
they're saying is,
tiny area.
if you incentivize, you are, with the 6, and you can go, what is it, up to, well, it's 4.5 and goes up to 6.
Yeah.
If, they say, well, I can't get 6 anyway, so
No
there's no
incentive.
reason to give them, you know.
Right.
Well,
I think the number, we don't know, I don't know what the number is, you know, we're saying it's 4.5, 6.
but I think it's the lot size, really, it's somewhat a misnomer to say, you know, right? What really is the significant number is the minimum. And so that, if, you're running into, neighborhoods where folks almost have these, detached townhomes type feel that they like, that don't have much of a yard, and they can fit them on, what do we have for our 6.15? And then,
That's what it used to be. Yeah.
and then for the new one is,
It can go down to 0.19 or 2.9.
yeah, and so it's about 0.2, right? So, I mean, the issue is, really has to do with the minimum lot size, not so much the density per acre.
And it's the minimum, the frontage, the width of the lot is 60 feet, and down to 50. So
Okay.
And
what it
that's,
is.
that's a,
As
so
long as there's some built-in, really wanting to go after those,
they still won't be able to squeeze in those 6 per acres, but they may be additional lots on irregular lots that are that have, irregular that can be deeper, because we're not, because we're allowing narrower lots, narrower frontage. So that's really where the density comes from, not necessarily
I'm not
on
sure
the acre.
why we're saying they can't get 6 to an acre if you take the roads out. I mean, the roads gotta be built separately, because that's 7,350 feet per lot. 1,800, 2,000 feet, that's only a third of that lot would be a house. So you'd have like a 10-foot front yard and a 15-foot backyard. It wouldn't be very much. You have 10 feet, it's
But
tight.
To me, that mirrors a townhome community or something like that, not a single-family like we're trying to do here, and you're putting so much of a house on 1 acre. And you gotta get another with the density. You're gonna go by lot size, you're gonna go by how much you can put on. Everything's so confusing. You got 2 different, is it this or this? Which one is it? We need to stay with that, stay definitive with that. And to Phil's point, if you can't do or if it's really difficult, nobody's gonna care about a bonus. It's not gonna,
No one's going to care about.
I think you can. I'm just looking, I'm thinking.
I mean,
like,
can you,
I'll tell you what I'm thinking is like where my daughter lives. If it's 50 by,
do it?
well, yeah, if you saw their neighborhood, that house, they're $400,000 or $550,000 houses.
Yeah.
And they're, like I
They're
say,
doing
you say
6
shake,
on an acre?
but they like it because the amenities are there. They have the sprinklers cut on, they do their yard work. I mean, it's a nice community, and right behind that, they have, it's a PD. They have half-acre lots with even $1 million homes. And then in the very front, they got the townhouses we just talked about that are offset, like we're putting them really nice. It's a planned community. But I'm just saying that a lot of 7,000 feet, you've got a pretty good bit of space around that house. And I think if you require the additional amenities, what the zoning we're trying to do, it provides the density, it gives them a reason to go from that 4.5 that might to a higher density for more.
Well, I'm just confused because previous developers, that's what I complained about our R6 before, is I guess the way it was previously written is once you include the roads and green space, common space, that it's basically impossible to get 6 houses on an acre.
I'm just thinking that the actual
Right.
lot. get 6 on that and have plenty of room, but you're right, if you're looking at a 200-acre tract, I'm thinking maybe it just needs to clarify after the roads and after this, after the, what do you call it, the green space, recreational, that's the limit you can have.
And
That makes sense, because that gives you the.
where
quality
you
you're
get
looking for.
I'm
density,
not sure just pack everything you can on an acre. I'm just not a fan of that. We already does that. I mean, we're, Effingham County, that's not sure where, but I'm looking at reducing some density and keeping our moratoriums and everything else. Now we're gonna throw 6, that's good idea. Is that good for our county?
Well-
Is it just because it's good for somebody else and they like it and they can shake it without walking in the neighborhood?
I
Doesn't
think-
mean it's good for us. You know, we've already got traffic problems and density issues and schools full, and why are we even considering this when we're talking, when we got an avenue from, why do we put so many single-family dwellings on 1 acre? Just don't understand that. I mean, we can make they can make a project work to 3 and then 4.5. I would think if they wanted to go 4.5, that would be you could throw some great incentives to get to that point and still have a nice place and a little bit of space. You start increasing to 6.
Well, Margaret, to what you're saying, you can put 12 on an acre.
This is it. Yeah, this is
I
different.
know it's a single family, but you're talking about traffic, you're gonna have more traffic on an acre individual.
Right, but we can choose those multifamily ones, but
We can choose to put these two.
yeah. But
You can base it on where they're. where
once we
want-
started R6, all we started was R6. It came out of the woodwork like gangbusters.
But this works in, in connection with our
Do we
reuse.
want to keep doing that?
Well, it works in connection with our land use plan.
we can't blame the ordinance for it being in the ordinance, we can only blame ourselves.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, in the
Yeah,
zoning
at what point
process,
are
we
we going
can't
to say,
blame.
okay, let's throw
you
it
know,
back a little bit?
I don't
we've-
think you ought to have over 4.5 houses on an
Agreed.
acre. I mean,
That's enough.
6 is too much as far as I'm concerned.
Well, you won't with the roads and the green space.
Can't do it again, then why even put it in there?
I thought they were talking
Yeah.
about actually on a lot, that's what
Okay.
they said.
I mean, we're giving an incentive for something that can't be done. There's no incentive.
There's no,
There's-
yeah.
Well, I was looking at it.
no, and I think you have to understand, R1 is 4 per acre, right? The issue is, can you get 4 per acre there? It'd be very tough because lot size is what is the limiting factor. And so, you know, what I think we're trying to get across in this ordinance is not necessarily the density per acre. And say you need more open space. But if people, you know, would like some people like, right? Some people like, you know, more closer. I mean, we can give the example, the old R6, you know, treated like a land into as many minimum size lots in there with very little open space. So this allows that more density in exchange for that more. For the things we could ask for is more open space. That
Space and green space, I have yet to meet anybody in my district that wants a smaller lot. They're wanting bigger lots. They're not wanting these tiny things on the postage
Free,
stamp.
but I don't, yeah.
I haven't met any. So,
okay.
I'm being asked. It's a
If there's
slow-
not a net difference in the number of homes in the neighborhood, is the way they're arranged with
That's right.
green space. You see what I'm,
Yeah.
so that's the trade-off. Because if we wanted what we consider R1 and the green space, it'd have to be a huge, I mean, or have to be a large tract just to get the same amount of that particular size lot with the amenities.
And I
I
understand.
think you're trading off some personal green space for some common green space. Does that make sense?
And I understand we're governing authority and all that, but why do we want to fight this all the time? Why don't we put something that we can work off of? That's why I've been pushing maps. So backs against the wall. Every time we have a zoning comes up that doesn't jive with what we're doing in those areas. You know, we need something to work off of. This is gonna, won't tire, you know, it'd be a battle. No, I'd rather not see. I'd rather see a little bit lower density.
I guess one of the confusing points for me is that, and maybe it's the way we're wording this, if you say you got 100 acres you want to own, okay? And you say it's zoned for 6 acre, you're right, they'll never get it when they get the roads, green space, it's never gonna happen. I get that. 4.5 is hard to even get, green space. But my mind is thinking that that's not the real issue. The you get the roads and the green 100 acres, you've got left, how much can you put per acre? And I'm suggesting that per acre is not gonna be as tight as you think it is. For that whole 100 acre lot, it may only be 4 acres, units per acre for that whole thing.
Yeah.
It should be okay for that 1 acre once your roads and your green space and all is met. Why do they have to space those out there?
Well, it also affects other places, things like our roads and people coming out of one entrance or 2 entrances. I mean, this isn't just because of something on an piece of an acre. This is also flows into our transportation system and how our roads move back and forth and getting people in and out of the county. And, you know, the more we do this, the more we're gonna cluster, you know, R6.
Well, let me ask you, so you're saying that if I design something as a developer, okay, and I had 6 units on 1 acre within that 100 acres, I cannot, it says 4.5 per acre, even though I meet the 4.5 per acre.
At lot size, when we get a sketch plan or even the development plans, we look at the lot, and that's what we're verifying.
But the
that
lot
it's-
size would restrict me to even less than 4.5 acres, 4.5 units per acre. And see, that's what I don't think is right. I think if you take the roads and all the green space for that 100 acres, I should be able to put on 7,500 square feet, I should be able to put this type of housing. It works. It may be asking for your district, but they may not understand what it's about. These are quality constructions that we're trying to get that produce the revenues you want for your and so forth versus the inexpensive, small,
But
single
we can
R600.
ask them to do better quality. If we do 3 and 4.5, can't we do the same thing?
Then you're gonna conflict with what we already have. At R1, you can put 4. Why even come to us?
Well, you're telling me they can't do 4 in an R1 the way it's worded, lot size. Which one is it?
Can they do 4 units?
It's 12,000 square feet, so it's quite 4, it's slightly less than 4, but it's 12,000 square feet is the
25 is
R1.
48, so they can't quite do it because 44,000.
Right. When you add in roads, I mean, we're talking, and this is what gets so kind of confusing when you concentrate on lots per acre. And I think, you know, that's, you know, we really need, and we calculate that on lot size, right? On minimum lot size, is, you know, 0.15, per acre. I'm sorry, a 0.5 acre lot, you know, you multiply that by 6 and you get R6, right? You get equals or slightly less than an acre, and that's where you get 6 lots per acre, right? And so, but then obviously you then have to, I think the key thing is that it's concentrating more on minimum lot sizes, lot frontages, and open space to really produce the product that y'all want to produce. And we can tweak this in order to get there.
And I understand that. That's what I'm trying to communicate. I'm not doing a very good job of it. So I could put 6 on an acre for the lot size, but I will not get 6 per acre for 400 acres because I still have the green space. I've still got to have the
Condition and
still gotta have the pavilion, all the things we're requiring, and that's what I'm trying to communicate. I do not think that size lot is too small to put a nice house if you have these other amenities that we're requiring.
And that's why I keep saying that the lots per acre is kind of a miscalculation
We
on
will
it.
not get 6 houses for 100 acres.
Right.
It won't happen. It may be around 4.
Unless,
But to be able to put 6 on an acre with amenities and the other things we're requiring
So
of them.
how many would you get if you did 3 and 4.5?
so you're talking about in
that?
community, right?
What's that?
So if I take an entire subdivision, and it was all highlands, with no wetlands in there, what could we get out of there? I mean, we'd have to then out roads and our open requirements. Anything else? Roads, retention, any sort of water retention or
Right of ways
whatever.
for utilities and all that kind of stuff.
And figure that out, and we can get that for you. We're going to have to get that for you for, possibly second reading on this, is to say that this is what we're really talking about.
R6, up to R6, will that make us cash flow with rooftops?
No,
Right now,
what's
so-
going to make us cash flow for rooftops is
Right now, we build a home, we're in the negative, correct?
on the average, yes.
Yeah. R6, are you cash flow with that? Is that, I just wonder what the overall impact is on the traffic and everything else. Why is it good? I'm trying to see, why is that good? When we could go 3, 4.5, if I could go 3 and 4.5, or just go 4, and I've got a 100-acre plot, I can put 100 more houses on there if I went and did the bonus density and provided the county with what they needed. That's 100 more houses on a 100-acre plot. I think that's a pretty strong incentive, and then we're not putting so much density in everywhere that we're going.
Why do
Is
we
that
want-
our goal, just to blow up everything we can and put as much, is that it? I don't understand that
No, I
part of it.
don't think, I think that's
No,
not
that's
even
not it.
fair to even suggest that.
I'm asking, I'm trying to
Okay.
see the big picture,
All
our
right,
impact
so-
on the county. It's a little frustrating to be frank with you, but, why are we pushing to have more and more density in these places? Just, I understand other people are doing that, but I'm not getting that in my district. I'm getting the reverse. I'm getting, slow down. I'm getting, we can't get out of the county. I'm getting, it's 2 hours to go to Savannah. And we're wanting to we're trying to figure out how to put more on there and giving them a bonus that apparently doesn't work overall on average. I understand how you do that, but
Well,
And
that's not what our
Okay.
people want.
I don't know. I'm not sure that I agree with that, but,
What you're hearing, that's what
I'm saying we get, then why are we even doing multifamily? Because that's gonna create more traffic issues. What we're doing tonight cannot be in conjunction with our land use plan. So just because we have an multifamily, R3, or R6, doesn't mean it's gonna go in a certain place. It's gotta meet the traffic, the roads that we're building for that. So we're not approving it in any one place right now.
I understand
So
that.
someone can make an application, will say, on that particular area and road, it doesn't work. That's why you have the land use plan. Because we don't want to put 400 apartments in an area where,
Exactly.
Exactly.
But we're talking
But
about a
that's what
different
we
animal
just-
there than single-family dwellings. That's, I
it's more
think.
people, it's less,
Exactly.
less revenues.
We've got to put them somewhere, and I agree with putting them close to amenities and things like that, but now we're talking about, these are homes.
Well, when you make the initial calculation, when you look at the acreage of a tract, does that include wetlands and
when you, what calculation? How many?
when you figure in the R6?
Have to come out of
Say,
it.
how many?
So they will, they'll usually give us kind of a sketch plan in it, which they'll estimate wetlands, they'll estimate roads, they'll estimate all that, and they'll kind of give us an estimated density that's going to be in this neighborhood. And based on the lot size, right? Because one thing we get out of this, the the how many homes per acre is not the determining factor in how many homes can fit in a subdivision.
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to say.
And so based on the lot size is what will ultimately determine how many units are going to be in that subdivision. And part of what we're trying to do is an issue with regards to increasing the quality of the homes that are built, that that you can build 300 homes, or, I mean, let's say 200 homes on, let's say, larger home sites that are indescript, square, vinyl, minimum types of homes, right? Those homes traditionally are not going to cover the cost to provide services, right, in the county. The specific goal of the bonus density is to drive up the quality standards in those houses. Hardy plank versus vinyl. Mixed stone fronts. You can.
I understand that.
Yeah, but
why
what
can't we
that
do
does is it
4.5?
it
What's
increases
different?
it increases the value of the house.
Right. Why
Right.
can't you do that with a lower density?
Because you don't need it, they'll just come in and do R1 and do the 3 houses.
Well,
Even if they could do 4? Why would you, if you can do one more house per acre and you wouldn't want to?
I think this all started because I fussed about the vinyl so much. We were trying to find a way to, if they were gonna build this density, to get the value up. I mean, like Tim said, I mean, I think that's where all this started.
And-
And maybe we change R1. I mean, there's ways you can do this, give the incentives, get a little more density without getting a lot more density. What? And it's the same thing.
If there's no demand, they wouldn't build it, I don't think. I mean, there must
Oh, I
be a
know,
reason
but I
that-
mean, the demand is they want to build as many as they can as possible, and we're seeing it with the R6 flood of stuff.
Well, we're trying to change what we've been seeing, and I've seen it work.
Change the green space and everything else, but we're trying to change the number.
Well, by changing the green space, by changing the amenities and the things we've been trying to do, when you get to the end of the day, on that 100 acres, you do not have 6 houses per acre.
I get all that.
You end up having about 4, but which nobody in this room, I think, disagrees with that. But it does allow them to organize that development in such a way that the homes
Some of them
can,
will have
can be,
6.
can be closer together, but
Okay.
have bigger amenities, green space and so forth. And I like it. I've seen it. I think if people have witnessed these type of planned developments, they would understand why.
and I think if we back out get better estimates on, with the smaller lot size, what you're realistically looking at per acre, we could lower that number, simply because but it would be per acre, gross, really, versus per acre net, which is what we're talking about here. And I think that's kind of what you want. You want to know how many houses you can fit in the entire neighborhood, not trying to estimate on how many you can squeeze on the highland.
Correct. That's what's going to affect their overall.
Right. And so, but that's not how we calculated before, but I think that's how we should. So I think when we come back on this, we can include a more realistic number on how many houses you can fit on acre.
Now, what I could understand with Roger is the number maybe you look at is the 15% required for common area. Maybe that number needs to be bigger and still accomplish it.
And then you would accomplish some more of that because you'd have to have.
That's right.
So
just a
I'd be
thought.
on board for
Just a
something like
thought.
that.
That
Yeah,
If it
we
would
could up that.
reduce the overall, but then you got to kind of redefine that a little bit
I'm
to
with you.
say, okay, if you want to do these extra things, here's realistically, you can increase to 4.5, whatever that is. And some may have 4.5, some may have 3. I don't know what that is, but there's ways you could do it, I know.
But
to
that
make it more-
15% number really means more than the number 6.
Yeah, true.
And it really does.
The lot
And
size
I would agree.
and the 15% means more,
I
exactly.
would
right.
agree, people want to see more green space. They want to
Okay.
see more
That's right.
amenities. They wanna- And that's
Yeah,
what we want to
that's
see.
what we need.
We also want to see, you know, the frontage look different. I mean, you build a neighborhood and come back to that neighborhood 10 years later, and what does it look like? You know, from the front now,
Mhm.
10 years down the line, you know, what can we do to encourage
And-
some space up there, some more.
And I'll give you another example.
Leave
of-
more trees, something.
is, you know, how it looks from the street, right? You can fit more houses if you back up those houses right to the street, but it's not a good look from the streetscape point of view.
Exactly.
And so if you allow them to do smaller lots and then require, you know, more shading berms or whatever you have it from the street view,
There you
it,
go.
you know, you accomplish what you want without
love to
increasing
see
density.
If
more of
I'm
that,
hearing
but-
correctly what you're concerned about, because I'm in that same concern, on 100 acres, you don't want to see 600 homes.
No.
I don't either. I'm with you on that. So what you're more
And that's
concerned
not
about
the
the
intent. For me,
total
it's not.
number,
Yeah.
not how close they might be together within that development. It's the total number that's going to be there. So if you have the setback from the street, you have the green space and all these things.
And
that-
then you're at 4.5.
Yeah, but they may have 6 on an acre, but they're only 4.5 for the whole 100 acres.
Understand.
And that's kind of what you're trying to get to, right? And I'm on that page.
Somewhat, but that was still kind of hard. I have a hard time stomaching 6 on any acre anywhere, but, I'd like to look at calculations
Yeah.
of that. But I'm concerned also with that frontage. There's a development on 30. It's not an old development, and there's a house, literally, a stone,
Oh, I did?
right next to the power lines on 30. I don't know if you guys have seen that and have been on 30 lately. Somehow this house looks like it's almost in the right of way. Are you familiar with the one I'm talking about? I forget the name of the development. But I mean, it is literally, you've probably seen it on 30.
You might would know it if I can't.
Two-story, it's hard to miss. I mean, it's right on the highway. Just something to back that off. But that's-
Well, this is why I wanted to wait on that other one to see how long the moratorium needs to be. Because tonight, do we need to ask for a motion for the first reading, knowing there's going to be a lot
Well-
of tweaking? Or do we want to table this?
I honestly think there's going to be based on this feedback, there's going to be such a difference between
First and second.
first and second reading
We ought to table this one.
that we probably are better off tabling it and then giving ourselves 2 more weeks. And
Provide
so,
more information to see
Yeah.
what that
Be
looks
great. I'd
like. I'm
love to
good with
see
that.
some of that discussion and getting some professional opinions, you know, from
We have-
Phil or from developers to what
Because
can
we
we
want to get this
realistically.
right.
My
Exactly.
suggestion is,
So that way we're not
'cause
battling it.
where it
when
says
we're-
in there,
we
you,
agree on that. We gotta
4.5,
get
but
this
you
Yes,
can
I
get
wanna this
incentives
right
up to
so we don't
6.
have the
Yeah.
battle all the
Really,
time
don't
like
look
we
at
did
it that way.
Exactly.
Use the 15%.
4 years
Start,
for
maybe
those
it's
zoning
20, I'd say 25, I don't know. And then you can incentivize to reduce that number.
use the
with
lot
equality.
size and the open
Because
space requirement. Yeah.
We're getting bogged down, I think, with this 6
Per acre, yeah.
number.
Yeah,
that's
I
really
think so
not-
too. I
That is
agree.
just not
I
real.
think some examples,
Yeah.
if you could bring a couple examples, like, here's a 100-acre tract, this is what it would look like with possible roads and
Right.
green spaces.
Yep.
And then that might help us visualize what we're really approving with R6, if we go with what you've recommended so far, or do we need to go to 3 and 4? But some examples,
Yeah, and,
throw them
and
on the screen.
Some real neighborhoods.
Yeah.
that We could look at
We can-
overhead, see what. they
there are
look like.
examples where you can take the same shape piece of land, right?
Do it both ways.
And then cut it up
Be
like a
beautiful.
pizza, or or do smaller lots with more open space and so on and so forth,
Okay.
and it creates a better product.
And I bet you'll have about the same number of homes.
Right.
But a lot more,
A lot more green space
Yeah.
and open space.
yeah.
That's
But
right. Okay.
picture's worth 1,000 words, so
Yeah.
I'm going to
10-4.
entertain a motion to table, so you can give us some examples and tweak some of the lanes we talked about tonight.
It'd be better to see it.
And so do you have a motion to table this to, you want to give it just 1 meeting or 2 meetings?
We can get something for you at the next meeting.
All right, I'll make a motion that we table,
Oh,
you're not gonna be here, or you won't be here.
Yeah, I won't be at the next meeting.
November 1st, maybe.
yeah, let's make it November
Make it
1st.
November
All right,
1st.
I'll make a motion to table this item until November 1st.
Second.
Well, gotta find where I'm at here. Okay, because I skipped them. All right, motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Burdette to table to the November first meeting. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it will be tabled to that meeting. Now, let's go back to item number 3 before we go to our public hearings, because now we know what we need to do on this. We need to change the time period of our moratorium. That's why I want to do that first. So we have a consideration to approve a resolution 22-045 to extend a moratorium on rezoning for R3 multifamily housing and R6 single-family residential development for a period of 42 days. I'm thinking we might want to make that 60 days.
Okay, this takes it up to November 5th, 16th,
Which is that next meeting?
which is the day after the following meeting. And we built that in especially because there could have been this kind of
So you
discussion
think
tonight. We
42
could add
days is
another
enough?
2-week period to it. You want to go 60 days?
Think
Yeah,
we-
and then at that meeting, if we pass it, we can terminate it.
Okay.
We can terminate it early by
42 is
vote.
enough, because that gets us to our second meeting in November, you're saying?
Yeah.
That's what we planned for, but it will terminate as soon as you adopt something, so.
Right.
So
you
it
don't need-
automatically terminates?
Yeah.
So we don't need any more time?
If you want to add time to be
No, if you don't need more
absolutely
time, I'm good. I just didn't know.
No, I think the minimum is better because you always can add to it
Okay.
if you want to see more at the November meeting that we,
If you want a 42-day
this
extension of the
prolongs
moratorium, that'll
itself.
be
Forces us
alternative
to kinda
one.
Yeah.
Do
address
you have a
it.
motion for alternative one?
I'll make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Floyd to approve alternative one, which will extend the moratorium for 42 days. And that's from the last, which was October 2nd, right?
October 5th.
October 5th, we had the wrong date on it.
Oh, okay, I saw it said second, okay.
And
All
I
right, all-
apologize for so much, but you hit the nail on the head. I want to get this right.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
this is,
No,
it's
I
too
agree.
important.
This is a good resolution for this. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, alternative one passes, and the moratorium will continue for another 42
Mr. Chairman,
days.
I'd just like to make a comment from our last night's workshop. I just want to ask if our county manager can communicate with the Rankin city manager, because I know last night the question was asked of us about our moratorium. I just want to make sure they know that we've extended it and why we are, because I don't want them to think that
Yeah.
we didn't tell them the correct information last night.
That'd be good. You got that noted, Tim?
Yeah,
That'd be great.
Okay.
I'll shoot Jonathan an email.
Okay, thank you.
Hey,
Oh,
Wesley,
that's good help.
before we go into planning board.
Yep, good communication. All right, we need a 5-minute break, a restroom break or something. All right, we'll take a 5-minute restroom break. Please kind of rush back, gentlemen and ladies, if we could, so we can keep our constituents not waiting to Are you not cool?
It feels good to me, though.
Oh, well, I guess we shouldn't do it then.
They knew it that way.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and go back into session. We're moving to our planning board.
Stick to that, without coming back before.
And our first item on the planning board tonight is the planning board, is a public hearing. The planning board recommends approving an application by Carly and Tyler Dunn for a variance located at 100 Hagan Street to reduce the required building setback to allow for the replacement of a dwelling zoned AR1. This is map number 296A, parcel number 44 in the first district. Open a public hearing and we'll hear from our zoning administrator first.
All right, so this photo up here is from Q Public, so it's from about a year and a half ago when we did the aerial photography. The mobile home is located, pretty far back on the lot. It is AR1, so it's a required 50-foot front setback, and that is the problem. It's a very small lot, and AR1 just doesn't work with small lots. So now that the owners want to replace that mobile home, and they're currently demolishing it, and they will replace it, it doesn't fit with our front and rear setbacks. It'll fit the front setback. The septic drain field is in the front, so they can't move it forward, but they can't meet our rear setback requirements and are proposing to place it about 19.6, well, it's currently 19.8 feet from the rear, and with the new mobile home they're planning to buy, they would have about 15 feet in the rear. So technically, they will need a variance from the rear setback requirements. They're simply replacing an existing home, and that's, in that sense, staff are recommending approval of this variance.
Okay, we're in a public hearing. Anyone tonight speaking in favor of this variance request? Anyone tonight speaking in opposition to this variance request? See no one, I'll close the public hearing, see if there's any question or comments from the board or a motion.
I'll make a motion we approve with planning board and staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Deloach to approve with planning board and staff recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. The second reading of this variance is a consideration to approve a second reading of an application by Carly and Tyler Dunn for a variance located at 100 Hagan Street to reduce required building setbacks to allow for the replacement of a dwelling zoned AR1, map number 296, parcel number 44 in the first district. Motion to approve second reading.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, before you go any further, if you could re-announce the items that were removed from the planning board agenda at the agenda.
Yes, if you're here tonight for item 14 and 15 of the planning board, those two items where they requested a variance on the, I think it's the buffer or setback or whatever,
Variance, it looks like.
on the buffer, that has been removed. Now, the request for the, above that is related to the same property. It hasn't been, but if you're here for the variance, that has been removed. They've withdrawn that request, so we won't be doing a approval of a variance. Is that the only item we have on the planning board? Okay. Item number 3, under planning board, public hearing items, the planning board recommends approving the application by Tad Sagers to rezone 1.28 acres located on Roebling Road from I-1 to AR2 to allow for combination with an adjacent parcel number 377, parcel number 2 in the first district. Open a public hearing, and Ms. Teresa, our zoning and
This-
planning.
Yeah, this parcel that's highlighted up there is currently zoned industrial. It's it's 1.28 acres, and it was rezoned to industrial in 2004 because the owner at the time was operating a business, operating a business basically in an incorrect zoning. It was a heavy equipment for land clearing business. That's no longer in place. The land now is actually this lovely scenic lot with lots of grass, and the current owner, Mr. Seegers, owns both the large parcel with the pond, larger parcel with the pond, and then the smaller 1.28 acre parcel. The zoning is different, you know, the pond parcel is AR2, the industrial zoning is hurting him for any future development prospects, so he can't do residential development of any sort with the industrial zoning, and if he were to combine them, you know, they have to be the same zoning. So really, in order to both clear up the zoning map, but also to help him further his development plans for these parcels, we've talked to him, and he agreed to request the rezoning at this stage to AR2 so that we could proceed with our discussions with him about his future projects. And so we are recommending approval, or alternative one.
Okay. Anyone tonight speaking in favor of this rezoning request from I-1 to AR2 that would like to speak? Anyone speaking in opposition? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and see if there's any questions, discussion, or motion from the board.
I'm curious, what the intent's gonna be. It says recreation, so what,
Yeah, so we've met with Mr. Seegers over the course of a year or so, and his long-term intent, I believe, is to take advantage of our planned development recreation category and do a small RV parking, maybe some little tiny house type rental community, tiny, you know, it's 5 acres a total, so it's a very small lot, but that's what the planned development would allow for. It's right next to the racetrack, and long-term, he says he would like to do some sort of, you know, mini rental community like that, or maybe even sell the lots, but it, you know, RV, tiny house. Short-term, he has applied for a building permit to put his own personal house. It's a small house, not a tiny house. It meets our size requirements, our minimum size requirements, but he has applied for a permit to place a small home on the site for now, and then, you know, reconsider his plans going forward. And as we've met with him several times to discuss those plans, this red dot here, this industrial zoning on one of his parcels has always bothered me, and I just said, can we just change this? I mean, it'll make it easier for us to work with you going forward. He wanted to wait until he did the final rezoning to PD, but we talked him into just getting it over with now, so that at least we can, you know, he can combine them if he wants to, and it'll just make it easier going forward.
okay, thank you.
Any other question, discussion? A motion?
Make a motion, we approve with planning board and staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Loper to approve with planning board and staff recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. The second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Tad Sagers to rezone 1.28 acres located on Roebling Road from I-1 to AR2 to allow for combination with an adjacent parcel, map number 377, parcel number 2 in the first district.
Make a motion, we approve the second reading.
Second,
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Burdette to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 5, under public hearings, the planning board recommends approving an application by Richard A. Neidlinger for a variance located on Highway 119 South from the required rear building setback to allow for the replacement of a dwelling zoned AR1, map number 367, parcel number 54 in the 4th district. Open a public hearing. Mr. Teresa, you can begin.
I understand there was some a discussion of the district, the commissioner district. It is in District 4. It's just at the tip of District 4. So with the new redistrict. Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, we checked it a few times because it didn't seem like it should be, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so this is similar to our first case tonight. This is an existing mobile home that is being removed and replaced with a newer mobile home. And the initial mobile home did not meet rear setback requirements, and the new one will also not meet rear setback requirements due to the drain field and for wetlands on the parcel and the pond. It's just, there's really nowhere else to put the mobile home. And so this really is simply a request to get a variance from the rear setback requirements, allowing placement of a new mobile home about 15 feet from the rear property line.
Okay. Anyone tonight speaking in favor of this variance request?
Santa Claus coming to town.
replace the home where my mother had a place to stay and my daughter too.
Sounds good. Yeah. We'll see if there's any opposition tonight. Anyone like to speak opposition to this variance request? I don't see one, Mr. Ricky, so we'll close the public hearing. Any question, comments, or a motion?
Make a motion, planning board and staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Deloach, to approve with planning board and staff recommendations. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. We'll do the second reading. Consideration to approve a second reading of an application by Richard A. Neidlinger for a variance located on Highway 119 south from the required rear building setback to allow for the replacement of a dwelling. This is zoned AR1, map number 367, parcel number 54 in the 4th District. Motion?
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. It's done. Item number 7, the planning board recommends approving an application by Emily Williams as agent for Suzanne Self to rezone 6.13 acres located at 205 Sage Point Drive from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the separation of a home site, map number 393, parcel number 6 in the 4th District. Open a public hearing.
This parcel is in Sage Point subdivision, and going by the original plat, the major subdivision final plat, you'll see that lot sizes were different. The lots on Low Ground Road are about around 2 acres. The interior lots are much larger. They're about 5 acres or more. And the proposal is to split one of those lots into two smaller, a 2 acre and a 4.124 acre, in order for the owner to place a home for a family member. Now, in AR1, they could do that. However, it's impossible to get financing for 2 homes on one parcel, and so for the financing purposes, splitting the lot makes more sense for the property owner. This is a major subdivision. We did look at it from according to the ordinance for re-subdivision within a subdivision, and we've had a few of these in the last year, in the past year, and generally we haven't had any negative feedback from the neighboring property owners. 2 homes would have been permitted in any case, so there's really no visual change happening. There are 2 acre lots in the subdivision, even if they are on Low Ground Road and not the interior lots. So in general, we find that this one is not objectionable in any way. Staff are recommending approval. There's a photo of the current house, and they just wish to split the rear portion of the parcel off and add another home.
Okay. Anyone tonight that would like to speak in favor of this rezoning request?
So it's my mom's land, but in order for us to finance it, we have to own, that part of the land has to be in our name.
Right.
So the land will all stay in our family, my mom will stay in there. We just need it for financing purposes.
Been there before, I understand. Okay, anyone tonight speaking in opposition to this rezoning request? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and have any question, discussion, or motion from the board? A motion?
Is that, what districts?
4th District, I think.
Make a motion to approve with planning board and staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second Mr. Deloach, to approve the planning board and staff recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 8, consideration to approve a second reading of an application by Emily Williams as agent for Suzanne Self to rezone 6.13 acres located at 205 Sage Point Drive from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the separation of a home site, map number 393B, parcel number 6 in the 4th District. Motion?
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Second.
Excuse me. Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 9, under public hearings, the planning board recommends approving an application by John Morgan Bolt and Kelsey Shea Bolt as agents for Kirby Scott Willis request to rezone 2.15 of 11.52 acres located on 421 High Bluff Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the separation of a home site, map number 459, parcel number 63 in the 4th District. Open a public hearing.
So this 11-acre parcel is shown here, and the proposal is to split off the front 2 acres, as shown here on the plat, for a home site. The rear portion is still over 5 acres, so it does not need to be rezoned. The front portion needs to be rezoned to AR2 to accommodate the smaller acreage. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, anyone tonight speaking in favor of this rezoning request from AR1 to AR2? Anyone speaking in opposition? Seeing neither, I'll close the public hearing and entertain discussion. Motion from the board.
Make a motion to approve planning board and staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Burdette, to approve with planning board and staff recommendations. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by John Morgan Bolt and Kelsey Shea Bolt as agents for Kirby Scott Willis to request to rezone 2.15 of 11.52 acres located at 421 High Bluff Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the separation of a home site, map number 459, parcel number 63 in the 4th District. Motion?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 11, under, this is a sketch plan. The planning board recommends approving an application by Ashley Mosley as agent for Victor Vanderlucht for a sketch plan from Savannah Marine Terminal Bloomingdale Transloading Facility located at 1054 Old River Road, Zone I-1, map number 304, parcel number 9 in the 1st District.
All right, I'll give you a little background. There's a little saga here. So, a little over a year ago, we had a rezoning so that these parcels could be combined into what you see now. And there was also a request for a variance from the buffer requirements. At that time, the concept plan that was provided to us looked like this. It was to be a log export yard with some grain export. A spur was going to be built from the nearby railroad. And after, some deliberation, you all decided to approve both the rezoning so the parcels could be combined, and also the reduction in buffer that was requested. The reduction in buffer was requested so that the yard would fit on the site. It's a long parcel, but it is relatively narrow with frontage on Old River Road. So at the time, this was not a sketch plan, this was the concept plan, but we took it on face value and knew that when the sketch plan came in, we could get into the details of stormwater retention, of access, number of driveways, and we didn't expect anything else to change from that. The sketch plan we received was quite different, and I don't even have the first sketch plan that was submitted because the county engineer immediately called for a meeting with Mr. Vanderlucht and said, you can't have stormwater offsite and we need to talk about driveways. So that was fixed pretty quickly, and this, what you have, what's up there on the screen now, was submitted. This shows the stormwater on site and also a single driveway. However, it does show substantially more container pads than we had seen a year ago, and it seems to reduce, if not eliminate, reduce the timber portion. At that, once staff reviewed it, we contacted Mr. Vanderlucht and told him that this simply was too different from the original concept plan, especially given that the buffers had been reduced for us to recommend approval on what's basically a container storage yard. The intention we learned was to stack containers 3 high, and that a stacker had been obtained. So, the staff report was written, recommended denial, but after that conversation, Mr. Vanderlucht did submit a new sketch plan, which reduced the number of container pads to the original 15, and then left, he's not labeling it as timber or grain, but just proposed building product laydown area. So the staff report did not change. We were still recommending denial because we were, it was very close to the deadline, so we really just left the staff report the way it was and talked it through at the planning board meeting. The planning board did decide that the new sketch plan was adequate, and they recommend approval of this new sketch plan. Staff still have reservations about whether we can enforce the no stacking and the limit on 15 container pads. So we're standing by the recommendation to deny, but the planning board did recommend approval.
Okay. This is, we're not doing a public hearing on sketch plans, right? So this is just for board discussion. Might see if Mr. Mosley's here tonight. So the applicant's not here tonight? That's interesting. Okay, any discussion from the board regarding this request and recommended by the planning board for approval and recommended for denial by our staff?
My biggest problem is the variance was issued specifically for what we saw when it was presented to us, and this is drastically different. I don't know what building products proposed, that second submittal that we saw with 86 containers stacked 3 high. I can't support anything like that. So if anybody else got anything to say, I'll make a motion.
Yeah, I would agree with Commissioner Floyd, and I agree with staff, that seems to be a much different design than back when we first voted on this. And just quite frankly, it looks like something else may be trying to get put here, and we've already said no to container yards, and I agree with staff. I think we need to deny it.
And I think based on what you're both sharing, what staff has shared, and the fact that probably the applicant knew this would be some questions and he's not here tonight, or to me, I would not want to approve anything if you're not going to come defend it before this board. So
Yeah, I understood it to be an operation where they were actually putting things in a container to,
Taking the report, yeah.
to
As we've,
and not to store.
yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
it drastically changes things when you start stacking containers. So we probably need to look at our zoning and start maybe separating some of that. So if we're gonna stack containers, we do it in an industrial environment.
Heavy industrial.
Yeah, and make some changes there, so we tighten up that part of it. But, like this came out last year, it really, really changes the landscape when you start stacking versus just coming in, parking
Okay.
trailer or container and then leaving. It's a different operation altogether, and a lot more traffic, by the way.
All right, I want to ask, is there a motion for alternative 2 to deny?
Yeah, make a motion for alternative 2 to deny.
I'll second.
Motion for alternative 2 to deny. The sketch plan is by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Deloach. All in favor of denial, say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it is denied unanimously. Item number 12. Planning Board recommends approving an application by Dennis Morris to rezone should have waved, and I would just
There you
lifted
go.
my voice higher.
All right, we're back.
My hearing. No, I have a soft voice, and I thought the microphone was on. I didn't realize it wasn't on. Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Talk a little louder.
A little louder. How about if I get a little, I'll get a little closer.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, sounds good. Of course, it wouldn't help, we got closer 2 minutes ago because it wasn't on. All right, we'll open a public hearing on item number 12. The planning board recommends approving an application by Dennis Morris to rezone 9.21 acres located on Old River Road from AR2 to I1 to allow for combination with adjacent industrial zone parcel, map number 305, parcel number 4A in the first district. Ms. Teresa.
Yes, so this parcel is essentially a landlocked parcel now, but we agreed to sign the plat, which very recently, where this well site was separated because Mr. Morris told us his intention to combine it with the other industrial parcels, but the first step, of course, is to rezone it. So it's right here, and I'm going to go forward. These are the other parcels that were rezoned to industrial last November, I believe. And the intention now is to rezone this parcel down here to industrial as well. When we met with Mr. Morris and his engineer, we were shown a concept plan, not a sketch plan, a concept plan that shows a warehouse as a potential use of the property, and with the pond being in this parcel that we're considering tonight. While it was a concept plan and not an actual sketch plan, so it's not set in stone that this is what's going there, we were generally felt it was we could be favorable towards this because combining the parcels as industrial, but leaving this kind of tail end area for the pond, it seemed like it'd be a fairly low impact, a lesser impact on the surrounding properties than if a building were to go back there. Now, I keep stressing that this is a proposed use because we have had a number of queries from realtors and developers about the potential for container storage on the industrial parcels. So we're a little leery of the variance application that has been withdrawn. But the rezoning, we're still fairly neutral on that. I'm just going to show you here's the zoning map. The surrounding area is AR2. Across the road is Americold and Port Fresh. There's commercial zoning here, which, could eventually be convenience store type location. So we didn't, I believe, have any opposition when these parcels were rezoned last year. I don't know why this wasn't considered at that time, but at this point, Mr. Morris wishes to go ahead and just get this rezoned to industrial and combine it or have it available to be combined with these other parcels for future industrial use, but it's unspecified at this time as to what that use would be.
Okay. Anyone tonight speaking in favor of this rezoning request?
Yes, my name is Travis Bazemore with EMC Engineering here with the applicant, Mr. Dennis Morris. Mr. Issa pretty much summed it up. Here to answer any questions you may have. It's pretty simple. Like she said, most of the other properties are already zoned industrial, and this was just a piece at the time. I'm not quite sure, but he just couldn't purchase that piece. And so now he has been able to purchase it, and he just wants to rezone it and industrial to get this site to work. And I would mention one thing she didn't mention. I'm not sure exactly how much wetlands, but there are some wetlands around the pond area too. So, it'll be pond and wetlands and basically on this lot.
So there wouldn't be any warehousing right here behind those homes. That would pretty much be a pond or
That's
detention.
the plan.
Detention pond.
That is the plan.
Could we put that as a condition?
Well, understand, if we were to approve this, I don't want to, just like this last item we had, we presented one thing and then something else shows up. So if that's an understanding, I can support that.
But so I
Come back in 6 months and then there's a building right here behind these folks.
No, I understand, and I think I may be wrong. Teresa can correct me, but this will have to come back for sketch plan. So you could address it then. Not sure if it's a rezoning issue.
Right, that's two different things. I'm just saying.
Yes.
If it does pass, if it comes back and the buildings turn in a different direction back here.
Right, it would have to be addressed for sure.
So the wetlands have not been delineated?
I don't believe so.
We really don't know where.
This may be a smaller warehouse anyway before it's over with, possibly.
I think as long as they don't, and we'll hear from anybody opposition in just a minute, but I think as long as you don't reduce the buffer, you have your 300-foot buffer.
Right.
There's no street up there on this side.
You
Well, yeah, I
put
want to
containers
hear
in
the
it.
citizens' concerns too. I want to make a point though that this that's behind these property owners is going to be pretty much a wetland or
Okay,
swamp
yeah.
or a pond.
Yes.
And I would emphasize, this is a concept plan, so it is very conceptual, just to kind of see if it would work. Obviously, like I said, a sketch plan with more detail would have to come back before the board.
Do you know what's the footage across that lot where that star is, from the back of those houses to the other property?
It's a total of 9.3 acres.
What's that across there? I mean, 300-foot buffer is gonna be
It's about 500 foot
across
along the
there?
back of those lots.
No, I mean, from back of these lots to the back of these lots. What's the distance?
Well, is that an angle?
Yeah, I'm
So
curious
right here.
too,
There.
how much usable
No,
property.
go the other way. From there,
This way,
no, across the middle of it.
right here.
Yeah, right there, that'd be fine. How many feet is across there, you reckon?
This right in here is all wetlands back around there. There's only some good land. We did a wetland study on it, and there's just a piece right in here. I originally owned this piece of property, and when I sold the water utility company, I let them have that with the well that's right down here on the corner. But then after I found out I could get some more land out of it after we did the wetland study and everything, that I could utilize that there land, so I purchased the property.
Go up to that.
So this dash line right here is about 150, so, I mean, that's,
All right, so go from that red corner,
Right
other
here.
corner, go up to the left, to the
Here.
left, to the left, up now? Nope, up, right there. From that corner, no, the corner.
Go up.
Go up,
Go up.
right there,
corner.
right there, yeah.
Straight
Now go
across.
straight across. How far is it?
there.
Yeah,
Like I said, from here to this dash
About
line is about
500 feet.
150. I would say that's another 150, and maybe another 300, so
It's around
Well,
500 some
so
odd
my point, if you don't lower the buffer, you can't put much of a building in between there.
foot.
It's going to have to be utilized pretty
that-
much for retention, I believe.
Yeah,
That's-
that to me is the protection.
That was the only reason I got the property back, was just for the.
Because the
you
proposed
can-
buffers he's showing are
You
not the
can't use
correct
the buffer. We
buffers.
took that
No.
off
Right.
Through that.
Well, I know, but in order to put the pond where he's talking about putting it,
No, that's for a building, isn't it? It isn't for the pond. The pond can be in the buffer, can it?
I don't think so.
We
No, it's
have,
an
we
understood
have
Can the
buffer.
pond be in the buffer?
It's an undisturbed buffer.
buffers.
Hang on, guys, I can't hear. What?
We have, in some select cases, permitted ponds and buffers as they're part of stormwater retention, so stormwater filtration. So there have been a few cases in the last year where that's been a feature
But
that we.
that's at a level of approval of the staff and board. It's not guaranteed they could do that.
No, it's not guaranteed.
So we can,
For a variance.
so we can
for that.
control that at the sketch plan level.
A variant specific to stormwater.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think because it's only 500 feet wide, you're not gonna be able to,
You are limited.
yeah. There's not gonna be much of anything behind those houses other than a detention pond,
He, he,
duck pond.
I don't know if you heard Mr. Morris, but it's like he said, he pretty much needed this for a pond, so he could get his building to work on the other
Right.
portions of the
At the
property.
detention area.
Or she said that the wetlands are delineated.
We had some of the wetlands delineated out of the 48 total acres that'll be on this property. There's over 30 acres that's, high crown.
So it's core approved and already done,
It's in process.
in process.
Yeah, on some of the property that's already been zoned.
All right, that's good information. Anyone not speaking in opposition to this request? Okay, you can come to the microphone and share it. If you can state your name when you come and state your opposition.
My name is Mickey Shelley. I live in the neighborhood adjacent to that. And we hear backup alarms from Port Fresh, from that area over there. It already protruded on that. And me and Mr. Floyd's had conversations about this. That trucks turning around in our neighborhoods, damaging our roads. I mean, really, you need to think about this, because why we don't use the other side of the road? You know, like you said, with changing the landscape of the stacking the containers, that needs to be in a warehouse environment across the road. It don't need to be right here with backup alarm. We hear them at 10:30 at night. So we put a warehouse right there, and if you notice, it wraps the neighborhood from one side to the next. You know what we're gonna hear all night long? We're gonna hear beep, beep, beep all night long. This thing don't need to go there. I mean, really. This is all a floodplain. And I heard before, you know, it's like a bathtub. You take something in, take something out. But when the bathtub's full, when you add another pitcher of tea, another pitcher of water, it's going to overflow. This is a floodplain.
Well, related to the water, they'll have to have a land disturbance. They'll have to pass Georgia water and our land disturbance. So if it doesn't pass that 50 or whatever flood year plain, they can't.
So our
build it.
houses have to be a 28. So his building's going to have to be a 28. So he's got to bring a good bit of dirt in.
Well,
That's going to change the contour of the water. I don't care.
Right, I'm just sharing some information. The water cannot leave that property after his development any faster than it leaves right now. That's a state law, and we have to oversee, make sure that happens so that it doesn't flood your property.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you've been out there when it's flooded.
I was gonna say, my name's Lindy Long. I've got property that backs up to this. Now, I don't know if y'all know this, which I probably should, but for the last 2 years, we've gotten flooded out. So regardless of what they put in there, my concerns is right now, we're already getting flooded out. You know, no matter what they put in there, this all needs to be addressed, because y'all wouldn't even let the school buses go to the back because the roads wasn't safe. For 2 years, we've gotten flooded out. And I have a feeling with all this going on, it's gonna be more. And it's gonna be more on us.
Yeah.
My property backs up to that. So no, I'm not okay with them putting that there at all. And my concerns is the roads. First of all, you're gonna have to go in and redo all the roads, because of when this water, when they put this
Let me
in.
address that real quick. I think
Okay.
if they do anything there, the road, they have to build a road that goes out to Old River Road, right? They're not using any of the residential.
That would be them, but what about for us? Because no matter what they put there, that water's gonna have to go somewhere.
That's a legitimate concern, and we have to make sure
That's
that
my-
doesn't,
Yeah.
we have to
We're
make sure
already
that doesn't
getting
happen no
flooded
matter
out.
what's there. That's,
So the roads is one thing, no matter if, okay, they're not coming in our roads, but we are, and the school buses, y'all pay for, I mean, you know, we
no,
pay for that.
we agree with you. I'm saying that.
I'm
if
just saying, I'm
whatever
not
they
okay
put
with
there,
that.
whatever they put there, whether it was a warehouse or whether it was
Well,
a office building, whatever, we have to make sure, according to our authority over land disturbance, that they do not put any more water on those
Who
roads
have you
than is right
reported
there.
this flooding to? I've never had what's your name
the
again?
county guy was out there, for 2 years
What
now.
was your name again? I'm sorry.
Lindy Long, Long. For 2
Emma, you
years
got a
now,
call?
we've
Was
gotten
anybody
flooded.
from the
And the
county?
county guy was out there, because what happens is it floods here, it comes across here, then it goes up the back side of this.
Yeah,
Where
there may be
they're
some
talking
things that
about
we
to
need to
be.
help with that. But we've had some subdivisions, for example, that had flooding, and we've did some research and study and worked with engineers to make sure beaver dams are
Well,
done and
Yeah, most of it was wetland.
other drainage is
Right.
appropriate. So
That's my concern.
So, yeah, so I would say with regards to what the board does tonight, we need to have more information that we can look at that as a county to see if there's something we need to address out there. if
I
it's
can
flooding
look at
those
the
roads.
reports. If the engineer has been out there, he hasn't reported it to
Well,
me.
he was this past
So
year
I-
because they stopped the buses from going on down there because it wasn't safe.
Okay.
It was water washing across the road, washing the sand out, and therefore they wouldn't let the buses go on down.
I can check with Public Works
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
see
check
what
Public
work
Works.
they've done on that.
I mean, in
I-
2 years now, we've gotten flooded. So if they go to building this, what's gonna happen to us?
Well, we cannot let whatever they do there impact you with water. That's our responsibility, to make sure it does not impact you with
I'm
water.
still not okay with it. I mean, and I live there.
Well,
So-
I can only address the water issue right now on that one. If that's a
But
concern,
flooding
that's
is
our
a
responsibility
serious-
to make sure that,
And I'm like him, I don't want to hear, we hear it from across the street.
And we live on the back.
Yeah, and we live halfway down.
Have we had
sure
any
don't wanna-
decibel, what is it, audio, what's the, when you go out there and read the,
Decibels?
yeah.
Yeah, we can,
Let's do a study and see what kind of noise levels we got out there currently.
That and the flooding. Y'all gonna take that into consideration and,
Still, I've got, my son's grandparents live out there, so I'm in and out there. quite a
Yeah,
bit.
they ride the school bus or get off there.
Okay.
You know, it's a legitimate thing. And like I said, I
Thank you.
live there.
I'm gonna listen to some other folks. Is there anybody else speaking in opposition tonight?
Yes, sir. Thomas and I, we live at 101 and 103. So this butts up to
Ma'am,
ours.
I'm sorry.
Michelle Smith.
Michelle Smith, okay.
Can I show you a picture of my backyard, which butts up to the back of this? I'll show you where it is on your screen.
Sure. Bring it on up.
So we're 101 and 103.
Okay.
Okay, so that's us.
Okay.
This is, what's the date on this? This is February 24th, 2020. So the back of my yard, that's Thomas's garage. We had to build it that far up, and then it's 4 foot off the ground in the back
Mm-hmm.
because of it being wetlands. So if they're gonna put a retention pond directly behind us,
Yeah.
it's already flooded. I mean, that's, 3 months, probably 3 to 4 months out the year, I've got 4 feet of water.
Okay.
What she's referring to, this is going down the road toward the back. So this is gonna be like 211, 213, 215. And this is when it floods. That's what we look like. So when they say
Yeah.
that school buses can't go back, they can't.
Well, we need, she's got some pictures. If you could send that to our county manager, you can get his email.
Is that due to the river rising? What's the?
That's
what's the flooding
that's
due
the 200-year flood when it comes through. That's the one we had in 2020. So when you've got that much, because it's the Ogeechee River, when it floods further up, everything filters down. And last year wasn't the 200-year flood.
I don't know if we can or.
Right. I mean, so we're already inundated in water. Like I said, the back, about 25 feet of our property is wetlands that we were, when Thomas went to build his garage and pour the concrete, they told him we had to build it so far forward and so far up. Because of that, we weren't able to do anything with it. So we've got that, and then if they're wanting to put a pond, I mean, that backs up to our water supply. Our water tank is right there, and a retention pond is gonna gather all of the fluids that are gonna come out of these semi-trucks on their concrete. All that stuff is gonna get washed down in there, and you're washing it into a pond that backs up to our water supply, our community well.
Yeah,
Well-
that's a deep well, isn't it?
Well, I think the issue there is that if the water were to go to the well, it goes along the casing, and that's how it infiltrates the aquifer. So there is an issue but you got the 300-foot buffer, and so I'm not sure it would
still
get there,
goes
but
to
that's the issue you're talking
engineering of
about,
the
that
entire
that it
project.
could,
I mean,
it is possible to
can't
contaminate.
come off of their property.
This is actually Lindsay's property right here. This is what it does back there.
I mean, it's wetlands all year long, and
I think the board's got it. They understand the concern is the flooding, so we'll let them
well, and
address that.
it's not just the flooding. It is also, like they stated, the traffic, because we have the 2 corner lots. Those semi-trucks, when they come in there, because they can't find a Maricold to turn in on the other side of the road,
Tear our signs up.
y'all just had to put signs up that says no truck entry. We've got DOT office sitting right there at the front for whatever work they're doing. But they turn around in our lot on the
Yeah,
corner.
they're breaking the law.
They are, but there's nothing, and you mentioned the decibel report. My father-in-law lives right on Old River Road, directly across from Americold, and he had an issue where the trucks were parking and idling right off of Old River Road, and finally they got them they chained that area off or blocked it off so they couldn't sit right there.
We're having to respond to these issues as they come up because these trucking guys kind of.
Yep.
Right, I mean, it's
And
just,
we're looking at
it's a
some things to enforce the
constant.
trucking a little more so.
I mean, to me, why
So-
not, if you wanna build something, put it on the other side of the county
Gotcha.
line where
Do
they
you have
just
any-
cut all that.
Do you have any more
Do you want your
questions?
property on the other side? I mean, it boils down to
All
this is Mr. Morris's property, and if he follows the rules, it's up to us to decide if.
Right, we just don't want it to affect us and our way of life, we shouldn't be,
Helping us know the issues is important tonight, so that'll help us a lot. All right, is there anything else in addition to what's already been expressed?
One more thing,
Is it-
and that is in a super elevated curve, so y'all gonna have to do something with the road right there. Those trucks are sitting on the side of the road every
That's a
morning.
different issue than we're doing tonight, but please
But when
contact
you
our
add more
staff.
trucks,
We need to
everything.
address it, but that's not the zoning we're doing tonight, okay?
Mr. Chairman, one thing I would bring up on this, that we should have put in as a condition, I mean, it should go without saying, but if the owner sells it, you just want to make sure that they're not using, that there's a condition restricting access to this property only from Old River Road.
I was just thinking the
Absolutely.
same thing.
Yeah.
And so, I don't think we realized that there was an access point on Lazy Lagoon, and we just want to, we think we should just maybe add that in there if you wouldn't mind.
Please.
There's an access point off of Lazy Lagoon?
The property abuts Lazy Lagoon. See,
Correct.
right there?
Yes.
So they technically can get an access point there, and we just want to make it clear that any access to the property has to be on Old River. Obviously, this owner wouldn't do that, but, you know, if he sells it, they could use that as a construction entrance or a turnaround or alternate exit or something.
Fall off the side of it. It's
Yeah,
destroyed
so
back there.
just,
All right. I
if
think we
you
got, I think we have.
consider
I
adding
think
that.
The point of the public hearing is to hear the concerns. Are there any new concerns that we want to share tonight? If not, we need to move on. Yeah, you have another concern?
Yeah, so the point of this meeting today is to what, this has already been approved, correct?
No.
Well, the prior ones have.
The prior ones,
but
yeah.
But this is a new parcel to add on to that, so
Okay.
they could get.
A detention pond on it.
Okay.
There's a warehouse gonna probably be built behind, on the other property. That's where it's gonna be, not where you're behind the property they're rezoning tonight.
Right, well, on my property, because I own 101 and I own 103. On 101 is a direct access for all the river that comes through there. You know, it's the river that pushes all the way from the back cul-de-sac. It pushes all the way through his property, probably 2 to 3 foot deep, and it pushes all the way back to the well. Now, I haven't seen it up to the well yet, but I've seen it all around the well. And so it pushes there and it comes right through my property when it floods. So I'm just trying to figure out if now, you know, if they're gonna divert the water somewhere, where is that water gonna go?
They can't divert it. That's what I'm trying to explain. They have to keep that water on the property when they build this thing. They cannot impact your property. That'd be our responsibility to make sure that they don't impact it any more than it's impacted right now. That's one issue. Other issues, we probably want to look at what we can do to improve the drainage if it's within our abilities to do that. We don't know what's causing the flooding right now, other than the river and the.
Well, yeah, the
200-year plan.
river's, it's low-lying property, so the river comes all the way across there. He actually dug a ditch. I don't know what he dug the ditch for, but it looked to me like he was trying to block the flow of the river coming onto his property. And, you know, when you do that, and you don't get, you know, people to look at it and make sure that's okay, you know,
But
that
they have
water,
to.
that, I mean, I can show you where, he can tell me if he got a permit to dig the ditch through there.
I'm saying whether they gonna approve for a site plan, they're gonna have to approve the whole site, the ditching, everything. Do you wanna respond to that right quick?
Well, can I respond to maybe some of the stuff real quick?
Real quickly, because we've talked about this a long time. I've got the concerns the board does, and we'll see what they do with it, but
I just would like to
take the
read,
microphone,
yes, sir.
state your name again.
Travis Bazemore, EMC Engineering. I would just like to reiterate, I don't want to downplay any of the concerns. I'm sure they're legitimate concerns. If there's flooding now, we're not going to make it any worse. But regardless of that, most of the items that we talked about will be addressed during the sketch plan. They're not really a rezoning issue. Y'all might disagree.
No, I
but
agree. That's what I'm trying to
all of that
explain,
stuff will come back, and then you'll have engineered plans. Staff will have to review it. You know, all that stuff will be looked at. I mean,
This
y'all may
board
know this
understands
stuff.
that.
I'm just want to reiterate for the record that, you know, that
Yeah,
all those items will be addressed. We're not even to that point yet.
I got you.
All this is rezoning. All of the other property out there has already been zoned industrial, so.
All right, the board's really fully aware of that it's gonna
That's
come
it.
back for sketch plan, and it could get shot down because we see that it can't be done without putting more water on their property, so, yeah.
Correct. That's all I wanted to emphasize. Thank you.
All right. Is there anything additional or new? We need to close this public hearing.
I just want to know what the point of making the buffer larger or smaller.
We're not making it smaller.
We're not going to do that.
No, we're not gonna, no, that's been
Taken off the agenda.
taken off, Jim. We're not gonna allow that.
Is that like set in stone, or are we going to come back later?
Unless there's a public hearing and a request, and right now there is no request, no public hearing. So, right, it's a 300-foot buffer. It's not gonna be less.
Okay. And, you know, I noticed there's not a lot of my neighbors here. But
We can't speak to that.
But there, where the sign was put
Yeah.
was all the way back in the cul-de-sac. And this property is gonna affect probably 30 people. I don't know how many properties it is, I didn't count, but this sign needs to be put in front of the neighborhood because it affects us all. And it's also gonna affect
Okay, so noted.
the other neighborhood. The sign placement was terrible on this. I think y'all would've had more of a turnout if more people knew about it. Cause there's elderly people there.
Gotcha.
We have widows of Vietnam vets out there. I mean, there's,
I'm gonna call this public hearing because we need to move on. I understand your concern. We want to make sure we have better signage if we didn't have it.
Well, I can say that is the access point to the property, is Lazy Lagoon. That's where you're talking about the sign was, and so unless we start putting it on private property somewhere,
We can't do that.
you can put it on my property, sir. I own 101.
However, to your point, for any property that was adjacent to this one,
They were notified
yeah,
by a letter.
they were notified. So for several houses on River Oak, and obviously Lazy Lagoon, we do send a mailer out in addition to the sign.
Okay.
They got a personal invitation to.
Y'all get one?
I personally got one, that's why I'm here. I didn't know the sign was down in the
got you.
cul-de-sac.
But that's why we send out the personal letters, because you said put it on the property, see, and then we send it to the actual adjacent owners. So we really need to move on. We did it, I think we did the job we're supposed to do to make sure people had the chance to speak to it.
Well, I would like to know where his water from his retention pond is gonna go.
We'll know that when we get the
There's
sketch
nowhere
plan.
for it to go.
We'll know that when we get the sketch plan, won't know it till then.
Okay, and then we'll come back and talk about it?
We will.
Okay, all right, because, I mean, I got, you know, I don't want my garage flooded. I got my
Got
garage.
you. I'm
I
gonna
got a-
close this
I
public
got a
here. We
ton of
need to move
stuff.
forward.
Yes, sir,
All right,
thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And I'm not trying to be short with you. We want to hear the concerns because there's some things we can address there, whatever the board approves tonight. But there will be a sketch plan, and at that point, we'll be able to, review where the water's going to go and the flow and all. We really need to keep.
I just wanted to ask if there's gonna be a scheduled next meeting to follow up on this.
When he brings the sketch plan, it'll be on our agenda. Just watch for that. It's probably the way to do it, okay? All righty. Any other?
If it's approved and if there's any additional stipulations put on it, right, it will need to come have a second reading next meeting? Or is that only if we remove them? I don't remember.
Yeah, there'll need to be a second reading next meeting, because we're gonna add, if it's not a condition already, we want to add that the access will be on a river road, right?
Well, it was brought up, and I know that if it's,
I think we've got to do that.
There's no second reading on a sketch plan.
Oh, you're right, this is a sketch plan,
That's
sorry.
right.
No, this is
This
rezoning.
is rezoning.
This is rezoning.
This is
This is rezoning.
They want to combine two of them together.
So
Yeah, that was the last time.
So here's what we need to do. We need to move forward. I've closed the public hearing. Is there any discussion from the board before we entertain
I
a
just want to
motion?
say, I appreciate your comments, and, from that, we will be taking a look at the roads, taking a look at the drainage. I do remember speaking with you about the trucks tearing up the entrance, and we've tried to address that.
We did, and you done a good job doing it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
We appreciate the signage. Literacy is not for everybody.
We have tried, because I've talked to you numerous times now that I've got to think back.
So there's not a condition currently, apparently, from a hearing that, and I looked at this, but I don't remember, but there's not a condition that's going to be require them to access this property through a river road, from
Yeah,
a river
that
road?
was going to be an additional stipulation I was going to place
Okay.
in the motion.
Because that's what we did with some other industrial property, drive them to the truck route roads.
Yes.
Okay. You want to make a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve with the, staff and
board.
planning board recommendation, but also add that the only access point can be off of Old River Road.
Second.
Okay, have a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendation with the only access off of Old River Road. Okay, have a motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Burdette. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. But now we've heard the comments, and we'll be looking at the sketch plan to make sure that those waters do not impair, and I know Mr. Floyd will be looking at it, see if there's anything else we can do to help with the situations you've looked
Yeah,
at
I'll get with
tonight.
Tim, and I want to get your contact information to, also to get back to Tim so we can get Public Works out there. I mean, I don't remember, I know I've spoken with you, but I don't remember speaking with you about the flooding.
Okay.
So,
All right, thank you so much for your participation, appreciate that. We don't need to do the second reading because we got a condition, so we'll do that when we come back at the next meeting. We'll go to item number 16 because the variance request is gone in item 14 and 15, so we're at item number 16 on the planning board. Planning board recommends approving the application by Fred Evans to rezone 8 of 35.86 acres located on Turkey Trail from AR1 to I1 to allow for a GDOT approved borrow source for the GDOT project map number 452A, parcel number 10 in the second district. Open the public hearing.
This parcel is located right next to the Effingham Parkway. And as such, Belfer Beatty has approached the owner of the parcel and plans to put in a borrow pit. This is a GDOT approved borrow source for a GDOT approved project. And so it is not a surface mine. It's not any of those words we normally use. Our ordinance does require that it be rezoned, but it's not going to go through the state, it's not going to go through the usual process that we see with commercial surface mines, borrow pits, whatever you call them. This one will be used exclusively for the Effingham Parkway. Belfer Beatty representatives we've spoken to them, they were at the last meeting. They estimate that 75% of the dirt will go straight to the road with off-road vehicles. There'll be no road impact. Maybe 25% of it, the dirt would be carried on the road, but it'll be much less impact than is currently in place because currently there are dump trucks coming up Keller Road, and we did hear a good deal of complaints from people at the planning board about those dump trucks. But the Belfer Beatty representatives assured us that this borrow pit is designed to replace those dump trucks. There'll be no need for them to come up Keller Road because the dirt will be right next to the parkway. So because of that, because of the location next to the parkway, because it's exclusively for the parkway, this is not a surface mine where dirt will be sold off-site, staff are recommending approval of this rezoning to accommodate the borrow pit only or the borrow source only. And once, of course, the work is completed, it would, the owner could revert it to AR1. During the discussion at the planning board, the Belfer Beatty folks did say that they normally would plan to build a berm to protect, to screen this from any adjacent residential properties, and they pretty much guarantee that they would do that on this site. So that is an extra level of protection that they're offering the surrounding property owners. The concern seemed to be also, for what might happen at the end of the borrow source life. Would it stay industrial? Would it become a warehouse? And so we assured them that this kind of rezoning is restricted to the borrow source only, and it would have to revert before it could be considered for any other sort of rezoning.
You have to what? What's the last thing you said?
Have to be revert to AR1 before it could be considered
Okay,
for
so
any type
that's
of
the
zoning.
question. So it would have to revert to AR1 and then be considered for rezoning for
If it were to
industrial,
be.
commercial, whatever.
Exactly,
Okay.
yes.
All right, very good. In a public hearing, we'll see if there's any public comments speaking in favor of this to start with.
Fred Evans, landowner. She's kind of described what's going on. The people that got contracted to do the road, we're going to do the borough pit per the GOT approvals, and it'll be built to GOT specs and landscaped as Georgia DOT requires.
Very good, okay. Anyone else speaking in favor or anyone speaking in opposition to this request for rezoning for this borrow pit? Anyone tonight speaking in opposition? Seeing no one coming forward, we'll close the public hearing, see if there's any question or discussion from the board. Just like an ideal location, won't put trucks and dirt all over our roads. And if it converts back to AR2 or 1?
AR1.
AR1, you'll get you a nice pond, and it sounds like it'll be a very, I wish I could get me a nice pond on my property this way. All right, any other discussion, question, or motion?
I'd like to, can we put I know it's already got that in there, but can we add the condition that it reverts back to AR1 and then add the condition of the berm?
Is that a legal thing that it automatically reverts back?
It's already.
Since
Oh,
it's,
it does.
since it's just for a borrow pit for
I've
this
seen
project.
some that kind of never went back.
Well, this one, number 6, we do, I included the word shall rezone the property to AR1, so,
Okay, I see.
we tried to
Okay.
make
They're
it.
Yep,
compelled
that's in
to.
one of the conditions, yep.
Final recommendation. Approve our source.
What's
So
the
does
pro-
that mean, does that language mean that as soon as they're finished with the parkway, this closes?
Well, we hope it means that as soon as the pit is used
The base-
to,
this is for the
is dug
base.
as deep as it
Yeah, I understand what
goes.
it's
Once it's
for. I just
built
want to
up.
make sure it's not ongoing for other things besides what this is.
It's only, the rezoning applies only to the GDOT, and this is, Belfer Beatty gave me this language, this is a GDOT approved borrow source for a GDOT project. I mean, initially, when I contacted them looking for a little more information, I was using the term borrow pit or surface mine, and the Belfer Beatty guys said, please don't use those. GDOT, we can only use this terminology because it is only this very special kind of borrow source. And if we were to inadvertently use surface mine in the description, it could affect their contract with GDOT. So they wanted us to be careful about the language we use, but they're also saying that they intend to build a berm, they intend to get trucks off the road there and keep it mostly off-road.
Well, let's at least condition the berm then, so that does
Okay.
happen.
Any height on this berm?
What, did they talk about height or width or?
It did not. The note I have is that they said they would build a berm about 50 foot from the property line, and I can talk to Brandon tomorrow and get more details on what.
We'll just make a condition, they build the berm 50 foot from the property line, whatever it is.
Can we
'Cause
put
I
a
don't
height
see,
on it?
I don't see any issues around it, no one's
No, it's
complaining
not
about
gonna
it.
be a lot, but dump trucks will be boom, boom, boom. and-
There's nobody around it to be,
Yeah, these folks here were concerned that this is what they would see, because, there's not a lot of trees on their property, so they were concerned, and that's when he said, no, they intended to build a berm, because they wanted to make it, they want to protect their source, they want to, protect it from any opposition and just do their job and get the dirt out and get it on the parkway.
We asked for 12 feet berm,
Sure.
50 foot, please. I'm learning that we need to have these
The dirt
conditions,
won't
or
cost them anything,
sometimes
they're getting
it
it from a
gets
borrow pit.
forgotten. Yeah.
so it won't cost them anything. All right, so we'll make a motion since you're putting it together?
Yes. How would I word that part of it?
Making a motion to
The
approve with
berm-
staff and planning board recommendations and a, 12
Berm in one location or around the whole thing? I'm not sure.
Wherever they're going to protect the residents, that's the main.
Okay, all right.
So, you've looked at this, I'm only seeing a partial part of this, I'm familiar with the area, but
Yeah, it would be along here then.
that one,
that's fine. If it's not necessary on the other parts, I
Okay.
don't want them doing anything unnecessary, just want to protect that.
I'll clarify with them what they intend to do and ask them to give us a drawing so that we know.
Okay, thank you.
So therefore would have to come back in 2 weeks anyway, so we can kind of give you a
That's
better
true.
description of it then.
Okay,
so you can, whatever you say, we could tweak it in 2 weeks.
okay, that'd be fine. Okay.
Right.
You're good.
Make a motion?
So making a motion to approve alternative one, with the additional condition of adding a berm 50 feet from the property line, to be determined in 2 weeks.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Burdette,
Second.
second by Mr. Deloach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, the rezoning passes with the additional condition. Let's see, item number 17 is a second reading, which we cannot do until October, whatever that date is.
October
18th. And that brings us to our final item, which is a sketch plan. The planning board recommends approving an application by Greg House for a sketch plan located at Highway 21 South for parcel 465-3TPO clearing and grading, map number 465, parcel number 3TPO in the 5th District. Ms. Teresa?
This parcel is, okay, so initially the applicant came in with a clearing and grading permit application. And we asked them to provide us a sketch plan, which would allow us to have some say in how they handled access to Highway 21 and any interior roads, but also to ensure that stormwater management was planned for during the clearing process. Just to go in and cut trees and grade the land would not necessarily have given a good picture to any potential buyer, but also could cause problems with drainage. So the sketch plan was submitted, the county engineer approved, the general appearance of the sketch plan. EOM reviewed it as well and submitted comments. But going forward, if this is approved, and then if they submit and we approve their LDA or their clearing and grading application, all of the provisions in the EOM letter would be taken care of. So this is the proposed sketch plan, and this access here is at McCall Road, at the traffic signal there. And that is one thing we wanted to make sure that they lined up with the traffic signal, that it wasn't offset in any way, so that any future tenant, any future developer would know that this is where the access was going to be to Highway 21. It's already anticipated. There's always a traffic signal. I don't have the picture. Oh. I had a picture. And also I think they've built in approximate location of temporary access here on the private road here. This just across from the Seasons of Japan site over here. There are apartments, the Goshen Crossing apartments are back there, and there's potential future access to that. That is something that would have to be finalized. This is a private road, I believe, here. But as you see, the stormwater, the intention was that we would ensure that stormwater was planned for, that adequate stormwater retention was planned for from the beginning. Even if this is just being cleared for marketing purposes, we wanted to be sure that it was graded appropriately so that there'd be no impacts on adjacent parcels. This is the Lewis Drive neighborhood over here. There is a buffer. This is Zone B3, so there's a 30-foot vegetative buffer that will be retained. The drainage, got the nod from the county engineer. So at this time, we were recommending approval of this sketch plan.
Okay, so this already Zone B3, so we're just looking where we're gonna put that traffic, and we're looking at putting a traffic light at McCall Road, and to the right there on, what's it called?
This little road here is Addie Exley.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Wouldn't it be more of a concept plan and a sketch plan?
This is not even a concept plan because he doesn't have a buyer, he doesn't have a market. It's a little unusual. We've really not seen this, but because of it's essentially infill and it's on Highway 21, and we wanted to be sure that access to the appropriate location on 21 was planned for, and that they didn't, grade inappropriately, so that, it's making it so that for sale, it's a known quantity. Any buyer is going to know where their access is going to be, where they can and can't be, and then that they have to accommodate this much stormwater retention.
Yeah. They have to come back with a sketch plan, though, of actually
Any-
what's gonna be there.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Whether it's
And
another,
this is all, I really don't, I
Compared
still don't
against-
understand why.
Well,
sketch plan. And I'm-
the uniqueness of this site, and you could say it's too early to do a sketch plan, it's too early to do a clearing and grading permit, because normally we don't do a clearing and grading permit unless it's kind of exceptional circumstances, unless there's a sketch plan involved with it. So in this case, because of we understood the applicant's desire that there's a lot of grading work that has to be done on this site. The uniqueness of the location, we thought that we could permit the moving forward with the clearing and grading with a kind of a preliminary sketch plan, even though we don't know where the building is going to be. Everything else is there. I think our main concern was, as Teresa had mentioned, was access points, stormwater, and buffers. And since there is if you look at the size of the stormwater pond, it's almost a construction site just doing the clearing and grading on it, just getting it ready for, to pad ready.
but they'll have to come back with the building and parking and all that.
Correct.
Ed Longhorn.
I understand. You don't think this could have been maybe a staff level approval? I don't know. I understand.
It could be.
Buffers is easy, right? They're
Yeah.
either shown or not. But I guess access, that's probably, something more.
Yeah, I think they probably want the support of the board on the access, because we don't wanna slap them on the hand, because we didn't wanna access it where they recommended. I think it's probably wise to run, particularly to a major highway like this, and residents to the left that you don't want to disturb, making it clear where the access points would be before they start moving land around. and selling the property to someone maybe. So, I get it. Any other discussion or questions, though? So this is sketch plan phase one we're approving?
Which is, I mean, the property's owned. I mean, it's almost a rubber stamp if there ever was one. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm glad you guys are doing that due diligence for this. That's,
Yeah.
bravo for that, for
this
sure.
allows us to speak into where the access is gonna be before it gets too far down the
And getting
road.
some drainage set up and everything else, because this is a very, very low property.
If I owned the land, I wouldn't wanna put all that work into it, not knowing my access was gonna be approved. You know, we may have told them you gotta shift it down here, and now they'll have some idea.
well, I would guess ultimately with 21, that's gonna be a GDOT decision anyway, right, probably. Okay. Well, with that, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the, sketch plan as presented.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Burdette to approve the sketch plan as presented, phase one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. And that concludes our public hearings tonight. Does the board need a break, or can we work through the agenda items? I don't see any long agenda items. Can we work through those?
Let's do it.
All
Hey,
right.
I'm gonna grab a water real quick. I gotta take.
It blew my mind.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and grab a water. It'll be fine. Do we have lunch tonight?
Yeah.
We do? All right, go ahead and grab your water. I'm gonna go ahead and start the business, but you'll be back before I finish grabbing the water. Let's see, we finished up with item number 4, is that correct?
But that's between him and,
Yep.
Cole.
And we are down to item number
Yeah,
5.
I mean, yeah, but I agree.
All right, is the board ready to move forward with our new business?
Sure.
All right, item number 5. Then we ready to move forward with new business? Okay. Item number 5, consideration to approve change order number 1 for contract 2225-008-1 with Ranger Construction for full depth reclamation emulsions FDRE on Ash Road.
Good evening, Allison Bruton, purchasing agent. So the change order before you actually has 4 changes for Ranger Construction. The first being, get my notes out, clean and video the existing cross drain pipes on the streets in the contract. The second was a change of scope for Scuffletown. The third was to increase the limits on Old Dixie Highway up to Ardmore Oakey Road. And the fourth was a change in scope to Corinth Church Road. If you do remember, there was a buffer in the contract already because Ranger did come back with some updated bid numbers at the beginning. So the change order is not for the full amount of the changes listed, but it will increase the contract by $232.59. And staff recommends alternative 1.
Okay, any discussion or questions? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion? Alternative 1?
I'll make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second?
Motion to approve alternative 1, where am I at here? I'm sorry, by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously.
6 is gone, right?
6 is gone. So it's been removed. So item number 7, consideration to approve change order number 1 for task order 22-003 with Pond and Company to allow for the addition of the Atlas Sand Mine site.
Yes, sir. So during a meeting with Pond to review the parks master plan that they're also working on, staff did request that they provide a change order proposal for landscape architectural and civil engineering services to develop a conceptual park plan for the Atlas property. Their proposal includes a concept plan development, field run survey, and the development of construction documents. And the proposal for this, the fee for this proposal is $126,263.32. The staff recommends alternative 1.
And this is just the concept approval, right? We have to get engineered design once they get the concept back and we approve it?
They'll do all of that.
Yes, so we will be able to go out to bid with what they will produce for us.
Or engineering to design it, and then,
They're designing it.
then to build it.
Nope, this is full engineer, what they will produce here, we can then send out for bid for construction.
Construction, okay. I wasn't sure on that, okay.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's great, right there.
Yeah, and we need to let people know what's coming there.
right.
That's gonna be a nice recreational area. So, all right. Any other discussion, question, or motion for alternative one?
Make a motion for alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Burdette for alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 8, consideration to approve to award a task order 23-REQ-002 to Pond and Company for Baker Park improvements.
Yes, sir. So we did send an RFP to our IDC group listing requesting proposals to design engineer the upgrades needed for Baker Park and to provide the bidding and construction management services for those improvements. This was sent to 11 firms. We did only receive one proposal, which was from Pond and Company. And that total is $114,788.80, and staff recommends alternative one.
That's the one with the pond and everything, isn't it?
Yeah, that's good because it's a nice place, but there's
Very
some
nice.
wonderful improvements that probably need to be made around there.
Yes, sir.
It's, you know, an interesting thing about Baker, it's one of our smallest parks, but it's, when we did the survey, it was the third most used park based on the survey.
Yeah, I think the playground
lot of
could be
people use it.
redone.
That's in the plans, yes, sir.
Yeah, and there's some landscaping around the lake, and you used to have the exercise things. I don't know if they'll do that again, but there was some things that were interesting.
And this also actually includes work to tie it into water or at least sewer, since it's at close proximity to it.
This would be- have a
And the
walking
tennis
trail.
courts,
Sewer lines run right
The
in
tennis,
front of it.
the tennis courts were just redone.
courts look great. Yeah, I was out the other day and saw them.
Is it something we can get a walking trail too as well, or?
Yeah, so they're going to redo the entire walking trail. That's the biggest. Put a little paddle boat launch. Add paved parking. I'm probably missing a few things, and I think.
I think they were adding to the tennis courts and pickleball courts and
Yeah.
the bathrooms, definitely the
Pickleball, there you go.
bathrooms.
Yes, the
Demonstrate
big one is
anything
the
else?
bathrooms. So.
Please, they're not showering in the bathrooms though, so it's odd that you went there.
It's been needed, and that's good. No good use of SPOS funds for recreation, absolutely. All right, any question, motion for alternative one?
Make a motion to approve alt number one.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second Mr. Deloach for alternative one. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Consideration, item number 9, change order consideration to approve change order 1 for contract 22-25-009 for Griffin Contracting Incorporated.
Yes, sir. So the original intersection concept from the county and the original design by Robert Civil Engineering had to be modified for various reasons, which would delay construction, and there was a rush on that to get it done before the start of the school year. So this work has been completed up to this point. My understanding is they finished up all of the last remaining items within the last week or so. So the total change order request is $165,677.08, and staff recommends alternative one.
Question, discussion, or a motion for alternative one?
Make a motion for alternative one. Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette for alternative one. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 10, consideration to approve change order number 2 for agreement 22-25-010 with McClendon Enterprise Incorporated for the local maintenance improvement grant, the MIG money. That's 2022 and other road work.
Yes, sir. So we do have that contract with McClendon for that road work, and Robert Civil Engineering is the engineer with that project as well. During the review of some of the roads, it was determined that deductions could be made to 3 of the roads. The first one being the dirt road portion of Old Augusta Road, which was a T-SPOS project, Old Tusculum Road, which was a LeMig project, and Bay Road, which was a LeMig project. And those deductions are itemized in your packet. Staff recommends alternative one.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's good.
Reductions.
Save the best for last.
Yeah.
Motion for alternative one.
Motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second Mr. Floyd for alternative one. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimous.
Save some money.
Yep.
Thank
Our
you.
last item, consideration to approve, this is number 11, consideration to approve and publish a job description for a new position in the probation office.
Yes, Sarah Mousoff, Director of Human Resources and Risk Management. I'll keep it short and sweet tonight. Basically, this is a new job description we're proposing for promotion. Our current administrative assistant for that department has been in place since 2000, but she actually started with the county in 1995 in E911. So she's been with us since 1995. This just becoming the office manager just ensures that probation is running smooth. They've had a lot of new caseloads with what's going on in state court. If you guys have any questions, that's what I'm here for. The funding is the biggest thing. We should be okay because of turnover. There's some savings. We had some vacancies for a while.
Questions or discussion? Motion for alternative one.
Make a motion to approve alternate number one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Deloach to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. And I believe, if I'm not incorrect, that concludes our business for tonight. So we'll see if there's any staff reports.
Yeah, I'll just briefly bring up another thing on roads. They did finish up courthouse extension today with the paving. They're moving all the equipment over to Scuffletown today and tomorrow. And then they will be, after that, they will be moving it to do the asphalt paving at Corinth Church. In the meantime, they're working on, I think they will be starting on the full depth reclamation, the kind of tearing it up and doing the base for Archer. And Archer, Mount Pleasant, Old Augusta, and I feel like I'm missing one. And Old Dixie Highway will be, once all the full depth reclamation is done, those will be limited to a chip seal top, a triple chip seal top, and then if that needs to be upgraded at a later point, we could do it.
So we did the chip seal already on Corinth Church? Because I knew we had
Yeah, they did a.
Because
they
I
did
knew
a
we had the
small
logging
layer-
crew on there.
Yeah, they did a small layer of chip seal on it until they can do the until they can get the asphalt trucks out there.
What did we
All right,
do?
well, that's concerning because that, I mean, they had a whole logging crew on that road and they were concerned if they put a chip seal down, they were going to rip it up.
Yeah, they.
That was the last time I
That's
talked
right.
to the superintendent. So they did move forward with the chip and seal.
Well, they only moved forward with the single layer chip seal, just simply to protect the emulsion, the FDR layer until the asphalt can get there.
Okay, because last time I talked to the superintendent, he said they were going to have to go back and grind the entire road up again because the log trucks had rutted up what they had already done so bad.
Well, I'll have to find. I know there were some areas that they had to go back and do because the log trucks damaged it so badly. But I don't think it's. For some reason, I'm thinking it was like half of the road was subject to that, and then the other half was in pretty good shape.
All right, I'll circle back with you tomorrow on that.
Okay. But that road is going to get asphalted once the base is solidified again.
Do you have anything else, Tim?
I did ask Lee for a request just for a very brief executive session on a personnel issue, but that's it.
All right, we'll come back to that in a minute. Sir, did you want to say something?
Yes, good evening. My name is David Wood. I came here for agenda number 5, the ash roads. I was under the impression that something was going to be done with all the ash roads, but am I hearing this correct? It's just going to be certain roads and developments?
Which road are you talking about?
I live on Pound Road and just outside of Guyton.
Yeah, we on these roads, I can tell you, were part of the T-SPLOS. They were specifically listed in the T-SPLOS list. We're going to continue to do, and I can look up Pound Road, the chip seal program on all of our ash roads. We have not gotten to all of them yet. I just don't know about that one. So if you leave me your contact information, I can tell you when we're expected to get a treatment on that road.
Now, when you say chip seal, is that the oil and stone that y'all put down? Yeah, that road, I'm speaking for Pound Road. It's in a condition to where as soon as you put the oil and stone down, it's busted up. The
Okay.
base is washed out. The oil and stone ain't helping us. And I noticed, I used to live on Courthouse Extension. I used to talk with Mr. Floyd about paving that road because of the amount of traffic that it gets. And I was told because they're not able to put wider ditches and what have you, and a yellow line down the middle of the road, that they weren't able to pave it. But I noticed that it is paved now.
Yes.
But none of that else has changed. So
No, what has changed?
Like the ditches, they wanted us to give up more of our property to make the ditches bigger and wider for drainage.
Yes, easement, that's whenever Toss was the manager, I believe, wasn't it?
Uh,
I remember many people because there was an uproar not to give up any property over there.
And we were looking at taking out a curve and straightening part of that out too, right?
That was before Roberts
I think.
Engineering came.
That's been
And they,
a while back.
Right.
they're the ones that have really developed.
And the
this
main
way of
thing
doing
is,
it.
nobody's got property to give up without that road being right on their front porch. And that was the biggest concern, is why they couldn't pave it, was because they
I
couldn't put.
vividly remember that.
Yeah,
I
there
do.
was, there was,
But it came to, we started working with Roberts Engineering, a firm that their method has been working. And it's
Okay.
something that we've been trusting, and it seems to be a good way to do it, without having to get that additional ditch to get water away.
I got you.
And
So
a
can
response
we-
to one of your other questions is, I think you asked if we were going to resurface all the ash roads in the county.
Yes, sir.
No, sir. We don't have the money to do that. That's an astronomical amount to stroke a check and resurface all the ash roads. What we're doing now through T-Splost is we have a certain amount of money, and then we're taking the worst roads, the higher traveled roads, and that's the ones we're trying to eliminate and get those resurfaced. But I mean, we don't have as we get money, and we don't disagree with a lot of the people that complain about their roads, but it comes down to funding.
Right.
And
And I wonder what when you continue to oil and stone something and not do anything with the base, you're throwing money away. Because it's still, that ash is still getting
well,
put in the air.
and all of that started when we were doing that in-house, when the winter storm came through.
Right.
And we had to do what we could just to make roads passable, and that's where that came from. So we're trying to help out where we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's much cheaper than the other surface. I don't, how much, I mean,
The chip seal?
yeah, versus, it's considerable.
It's $35,000 a mile.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's
So,
considerable.
versus, probably almost $1 million at this point. Is
And
for
I
that
agree
road.
that the chip seal is a lot better than nothing.
Right.
But they've got to do something with the base because, you're putting oil and stone through potholes.
Right.
Well, I think the goal
It
is to
busts out.
eventually, we just don't have the funding, obviously, right now, but I hope that if we continue to get these ash roads done through the T-Splosh, then we evaluate the next section of roads that are higher traffic compared to those. We're gonna continue to try to address those. But the chip seal is a way we can hopefully stay with the overlays of some kind, so we don't have the ash on the cars and it doesn't become a complete disaster like it did during that winter storm.
I got
So-
you.
And I have a road in my district that he knows about, Nelly Road, but, it's gonna be a chip and seal the same way. It's just, there wasn't the funding, and it's a dead end road, and, we'll get to it hopefully down the road for
Okay.
the permanent, but.
Well, I appreciate y'all's time. Have a good night.
Thank you.
I got one going by my house, it's in terrible shape, I can't even get it paid.
I knew he would like to hear that.
Tim, do you have anything else?
No, I just want to add that, that Nelly, after Nelly Road, Benjamin Gannon, I believe, is the next one to get done. So
Next one, I
it's,
don't know when it's gonna
it's,
come
You
up.
sure? There might be one more in between.
no, absolutely not.
All right, anything
But
from the clerk?
that's what I was promised, so.
Anything from our
What
clerk?
date that don't happen? What year that don't happen?
I think they're 2 weeks out, so maybe 3 weeks out.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Great time. I'll dance at your birthday,
All right.
sing at your funeral or something.
Clerk's report.
You've been emailed an invitation for the Hyundai groundbreaking celebration at the M Market Arena. Just check your weekly calendar that you get at the end of the week. There's some other stuff in there that,
Isn't that on the day of our board meeting?
no, it's on the 25th.
Okay, all right. Very good. 25th, you said? Yeah,
That'd be
okay.
great for our chairman
All
to
right,
represent.
anything else? Of the staff? All right. My commission?
I got a call today. Remember, I think I called you a few weeks ago about dump trucks coming in and out of, what was the ATV park over there off stage?
Nasty.
The big nasty.
Yeah, we sent code enforcement over there, and I don't think I have anyone here
Anyway,
to
I
give
got
me
a
the
call
results.
today that they're erecting a building back there now and bringing in portable toilets and setting up for some big event, I guess. I don't know. They said they're starting to construct something back there now.
Do
So I
they
don't
have a
remember
film
anything
permit?
supposed to be back there, going on back there. So.
No, they don't have a film permit, right, Stephanie? Okay,
How about
I'll look into
see
that.
what
Yeah.
they're up to now.
Might need to send the marshals out there tomorrow. All right. Anything else?
Nah.
I just want to thank you guys for doing your due diligence and keeping us abreast of sketch plans and the changes, and it's very much appreciated. Keeps me out of hot water, but more importantly, helps us, live up to what we tell people we're going to do, when things go awry. And thank you for McCall Park. It's great. I mean, people are using it. Every time I go by there, they're on the walking trail. They're using the dog park.
Everybody wants their park.
Man,
To that
I know,
standard
and
now.
I'm surprised how much I've drove by there Sunday and it was packed. You can't
And we
even.
need to get them to that standard.
Yeah, I agree.
It's
Yeah,
a great standard.
We
Now the
need to make
playground's
sure we
about
have
to
the
open
highest
up.
quality of living.
People are just excited about it. It's just a great
There-
addition to the
I
community.
saw them putting down the base,
Yeah.
rubber for the playground this morning, so
Awesome.
they should be finishing up this week.
But just thanks. It was a great addition to the community in that area.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Mr. Loach?
I'm good.
I'm good.
One thing, and I copied on a response with Tim and Wesley on, from Monica Harris with U.S. Fish and Wildlife. They're, they're interested again in a floating dock at, Abercorn Landing. I don't know to what level. I would really, if we have to take the lead on this, I really wanna do this. We're talking
$25,000.
$25,000 to $30,000.
Yeah. To
It's
really
just needed, so.
Make that really nice.
And I think what happened is that they got a quotes for it, hoping they'd get some funding, and then they didn't get the funding, but they got the quotes. So, we could look at, it's a floating dock.
And that's an old quote, but still.
Yeah, it's a floating dock, so, even if we were to do some improvements in there later, it can be taken out and reused again.
That's right.
And so it might be an option that we
And
want
we've already spent good money in that area, on the boat ramp itself and the road going to it. So, this would make it really nice.
I think I hear what say to Tim, if you can take that email that I saw it today, it was sent to me as well, and move forward and bring something back to the board to authorize moving
Yeah,
forward.
of
We'd be
course, we
ready to
want
go.
them to, if they have any funds to
Right.
put towards it, we would want it.
I'd
but
love to see us move forward on that. See if we can get that back on our agenda as soon as possible. We can.
Okay.
Before that.
I know
That'd be good.
you're looking for projects to take the lead.
That's right, I'm looking for more things to do, so I appreciate it.
Keep you busy. Anything else, Mr. Kiefer?
That's it, that's it.
A couple of quick things. Mr. Loach and I were talking about a follow-up workshop, and might want to think about, Ms. Stephanie, when we go to Atlanta, we're wondering if it'd be good if we went up a day early, because that'd be a good time to follow up on all the things we got going. And if we need to go ahead and, because some of those rooms book up because it's Effingham Day at the Capitol and other things. But are y'all agreeable to look at going up?
I think one day of just recapping our workshop, the 3-day workshop, or
Yeah, not-
retreat that we have, but just maybe to follow up for a status.
Sure.
We normally get
would
in
be
on
good.
Sunday for the Monday thing. I would suggest maybe we get in there Friday evening, so we have all day Saturday, and then we can do something Sunday morning if we need to while waiting for the rest of the chamber and
Yeah.
citizens to show up if we need to follow up, but definitely have all day Saturday. Everybody agree with that? So if you want to go ahead and look and get that, so we don't lose the opportunity to be in the same hotel and have to change, that's always nice to have to change. I want to follow up on the county's vision. You know, every time we talk with folks, I talked with a constituent today, we had a meeting with Rankin last night. When they hear what we're doing and what the balance between warehousing, commercial, and residential is doing, people get on board and they get excited. And I think we need to stay on top of getting this public vision before our people, that they had this idea that we're out of control, and really we've got some very good controls and some very positive things happening. I hear the comments that y'all are just putting warehousing everywhere. No, we probably have not added 5% to our warehousing property in Effingham County. Everything they're seeing is development that's been on the books for a long time. My point is, we've got to communicate this, and we need to do it sooner than later. Our public position, communication position, how's that coming?
It's been out. We posted it. We haven't got qualified applicants as of yet. We're kind of reaching out to some folks we know in the local media. They tend to be very good candidates for this position. And I don't know if we heard anything back. Okay.
And I
Yeah,
would
so
be
that's kind of,
for-
you know, the type of folks who go out there and do the
So
reports locally.
we may not can rely on that position for this. We might want to consider contracting that for
Okay.
getting
Just
our
temporarily.
vision. We've had the workshop, we're talking about possible rollbacks from some of the growth that the warehousing could produce, which I think constituents know, recreational, passive, a lot of the vision that we finally believe we can do, in addition to some road improvements that we're doing, the roundabouts, and I think, the other day I got hijacked by some constituents about, you know, y'all don't know what you're doing. I said, give it 3 years. You're gonna see Hodgeville and Colic Helmy, all that's gonna be so much better. And sometimes they don't believe it, but I think somebody putting together a vision, do it with visuals, so we have it on our website, billboards or whatever, and maybe even think about eggs and issues with the county.
Okay.
Where we can get them to, if we have to get a big place like the academy, and we could actually answer questions and be transparent and get before them. Because that leads to what I was gonna say, we've tried to have a couple of public hearings here about growth, but nobody shows up. You know, we're trying to communicate, but they don't show up to hear, so we need to go to them maybe in a more tangible way. So I'd like to see that happen sometime between, if not before that second workshop, immediately after.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I can, if you want to try and do something temporary, contractual wise, consulting wise.
That's what I'm thinking, to get our vision to put together.
Then I can kind of move on that fairly quickly while we're trying to get somebody on board PIO wise.
And we can do it by having some workshops before our meeting. Things I shared last night about the growth of revenues and the balance and things that you've got, and we all know we could share that, let them.
Yeah, I definitely want the board involved with that, doing some direct things with them, so we can get our districts represented in the ways that we want to do that. And it's just gonna be a phenomenal position to get the word out, make sure they hit all the various social medias, while the younger people are doing different things than what we do now. But somebody has a good comprehensive understanding of how to get communication out there, so they know what we're doing.
And for a couple of reasons, you know, we do want to see, so we can do more ash roads, we do want to see T-Splosh be supported again, because there's going to be so much improvement to our transportation for this one T-Splosh. If we had two, what could we do? We need to make sure the public understands. And then I'm very fond of this, the wisdom on this board. I want people to know they're conscientious and they're looking out for, and they have plans. It's not out of control.
Right.
But if we don't communicate, rhetoric gets, so if we can make that a priority, come back with some ideas, maybe at the next meeting on a contractual way we could really put this together and get it out pretty quick.
And I could add this too. I mean, one of the things you've asked us to do, and Mark has worked very hard on it, is a lot of these projects are determined on financing, and we've been operating the county on an annual basis when it comes to planning and financials. And he's worked very hard on kind of coming up with a 5-year projection on basically on every revenue stream and every expense stream that we have, and that can really kind of help in painting that picture. So internally, we're doing what we have, and then externally, we'll look at someone who can put all these pieces together of everything we're doing and paint a very clear picture for everyone of the plan.
Yeah, and Tim, including how this impacts our schools.
Right.
I was talking to Yancey today, and I just, people don't make the connection, the warehousing that's going up, we're gonna limit other places that it could be, but where it's at right now, it's gonna produce revenues, it's gonna help our school district, it's gonna help us, it's gonna help get tax roll back to our constituents, help our retired community. So there's so many benefits that they need to hear about from the balanced development that this board is planning and working on.
Balance is the key.
Yeah, and that's when we got the moratorium, not because we're against all the density, we just wanna do it right.
You're correct.
Okay, that's all I wanna say, just get that vision and let's stay behind that, because that's gonna be key to,
But I can appreciate the patience on finding the right person for that
Yeah.
position.
Right.
Really,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
make
Yeah.
sure it's the right fit.
I'll
Absolutely.
second that, for sure.
needs to be the best. And that's all I've got. You say you need a executive session?
Yeah, just a brief one on a personnel issue.
All right, can I have a motion to go into executive session, discuss personnel, property, and pending litigation?
Pending litigation.
That's a motion by
Second that.
Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Kiefer. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing none, we are in executive session. And staff, thank you for being here tonight. You can go ahead and head home if you like. Sure, come on up.
You satisfied, Travis? You always seem so damn happy. Yeah.